I'm Evac. Hello. You've just spoiled my fantastic reveal. We've got two great casters today. They are, as you just saw, McCready and Toot. Hello, guys. Say hello at the same time.
Oh.
You're a bit out of sync there, unfortunately. We'll see if you can get things
I'll read
going. Yeah, definitely so. Welcome back, but we are in the playoffs. First game is Kjell's Disciples. It's the open division game up against Carnivora. Stakes are pretty high for this one. They can be moving on through. We've seen historically open teams doing very well, so don't expect any lack of quality from this one. Let's start over McCready. Can you give us just a rundown of what this game might mean to these teams?
Okay, hello now that we're actually on the screen. Yes, this game is actually really important. This is the only game in the playoffs that is coming up from the Open Division. These two teams are the best in the Open Division so far, and now that they're coming into this playoff game, well, suddenly they've got a bone to pick. Like you said, historically, Open Division teams, they do really well. They have really good runs and then get into the higher rungs. And I feel like this is a really strong place to start this, mainly because Kjell's Disciples and Carnivora, they've had a very interesting season that we'll get into later. The winner of this game, this best of three, however, they're going to be playing the winner of Proximity versus Machine Soldiers Academy. Basically, this is the first step in a long journey of how you just get and you knock out some of these heavy hitters in the scene. I mean, I haven't focused too much on the season. I've focused enough to know what's going on, but when you look at the bracket, you look at this and you know these teams, simply put. Kjell's Disciples, they've got a long road ahead of them. This is the first step. They need to win it. Same as Carnivora. I mean, that game B, very bottom, very high expectations based on history.
Yeah, the history is pretty good. I mean, you got Arctic coming in the quarterfinal. They were a come-through team from Open Division. In previous seasons, we have the likes of Shreks and Hobbits as well, getting all the way to the final and then winning it, one better than Arctic managed that season. So it's very storied. We know that can happen. Even contenders last season, we had Paragon racing up through the season. So that was absolutely great to see, and we're very likely to see something like that again. I wouldn't be surprised. Toot, why don't you tell us about these teams' seasons so far and how they might be faring against each other today? I don't think we have him.
I think
not
he's
sure
dead,
he's
yeah.
here. Otherwise, he's very good at pretending to be a statue. But we'll have to just wait and see. I guess I'll go through it a little bit then. These two, they've had very interesting and slightly different seasons in that there have been so many forfeits and things around with players and teams leaving the division midway through, which has kind of upset some of the results, which has gone in Carnivora's favor, but not necessarily in Kjell. So Kjell's, they forfeited one game because I think they weren't around on that day, but other than that, they won every single game they played. However, if you look at Carnivora's record, not quite the same, McCready.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Carnivora, they have struggled a little bit more, but they've still put themselves up to the very, very top. I mean, you're looking at it, they've lost a couple of games, one overtime, one actual loss, whereas, like you said, Kjell's Disciples, it was just a forfeit. Carnivora, like you said, they've had a couple of results overturned to put them up in that top bracket, but I feel like when you look towards the history of these two teams, it's a little bit more telling. It's something you really hammered home before we started, was the last time these teams played together.
Yeah, that was a really tense one. A 7-5. It was the closest game for Kjell's that they actually played. The team that got the most points against them that game, 7-5 on Villa, was against Carnivora, but they just edged it out. We've not got... I don't believe we have a Villa yet. I haven't had 100% confirmation of which maps we've got today, but I do know that Kjell's, they've banned out Cafe. If we do have it, do show us on the screen. That'd be really nice to know. Oh, we got something.
Ooh, I think we do. We also have Toot back, actually.
Oh, hello. You there, Toot? Can you hear us?
Never mind.
I'm not sure.
Right. the maps, anyway. Let's take a look at these. I mean, Clubhouse, Coastline, and Villa, eBay. These are interesting, aren't they?
These are very interesting because Coastline, it's a map that we haven't seen Carnivora play this season. We've seen Kjell's play it against Mouse Plays White, and they kind of stomped on them a little bit. It was a very strong performance from them against a very strong team as well. Villa, that's what we were just talking about. Being the decider today, that's where these teams came so close. But 100% loss record on Villa this season for Carnivora is the thing that's really worrying me about that. They're going to have to win out on that first map, Clubhouse, I think, where both teams have won all their games.
I feel like Clubhouse, it's definitely, and you know exactly who, as, coined this phrase. Clubhouse is a litmus test. Clubhouse is a determination of whether a team at T4 level actually has what it takes. If you know how to play Clubhouse, chances are you do have some fundamental strategies correct. You have that coordination as a team, but if you're struggling out on a Clubhouse match consistently, then it's a bit of a worry, most importantly, because Clubhouse, you look at it, a lot of the maps, a lot of the strategies, they're very well defined to the point where you go into unranked and you're seeing competitive setups. Because Clubhouse is just one of those mainstays in the competitive map pool, I feel like Clubhouse is a really good opportunity for teams to get the basics right. That's what it is all about. It's not who has the better strats, it's who executes the strats better. Because if you're running anything other than default most of the time with maybe a little adaptation, then 9 times out of 10 you're probably not using the best strat available.
Yeah, you can get punished for that. It's going to be an interesting balance across the play. I think we're going from rigid, set, straight to chaos. And then, if it's still tied up at the end, we've got a kind of mix of the two. A very open and versatile map in Villa to mix things up. But in terms of history, as Toot would have gone through if he were here, would have that whole run getting worse and worse for Carnivora. So they have to. It's most important that they got off to the best start possible. So let's talk about some of those players that we might have on these lineups, because there are one or two that catch my eye, and I'm thinking Scythes. That's the name that's striking out to me right now for Kjell's Disciples.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I have the actual stats yet. Let me just get them up very quickly. But I feel like, honestly, you're looking at a map like Clubhouse, and then followed immediately by Coastline. That's where these players that you're talking about are actually really going to have that stand-up. I mean, I'm looking at Scythe now, and honestly, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential behind this player. Something about Kjell's that's really struck me is the fact that this is a team that can all step up and frag. So suddenly you're looking at Coastline, a very frag-heavy map in the meta. You're suddenly looking at that map as being a bit more favored towards them. And then you've got Clubhouse being that standard map that everybody plays. And then Villa. Honestly, you're looking at this, and based on everything I've heard so far, Carnivora, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit worried for them at the moment.
They lost. Technically, it was reversed with a forfeit win, but they did, in Playday 1, play reactive gaming there, and they lost 4-7. So they still managed to take a good amount of rounds off them. It's not a disaster map by any means. They've gone there twice, taken 4 rounds, and then the 5 against today's opponents, Kjell's Disciples. So they can definitely do something. They're just not quite pushing it over the line, and the decider on the final map, if it does go all the way, will be the perfect moment to overturn that. But we've just got to wait and see. I think a lot of this game may well be decided with Clubhouse. It's going to be an explosive start either way, especially with the warnings we've had about the fragalicious play, especially from Kjell's Disciples. Have we got a Toot back?
I think we might have. Hello. He can hear us. Hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, we've got it.
Problems sorted, I think. Hello.
Lovely. How are you doing, Toot?
All right, thank you. And you, sorry for the big microphone in my face. I was expecting to use a camera over here, but for some reason it's not working, so I'm on. Doesn't matter.
Fair enough. That's okay. Have you seen the maps, Toot, that we've got today?
I missed all of it. I couldn't.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we are stuck. Let's get them back up so you can actually see, and everybody who might have just tuned in can see. We're starting with that Clubhouse. We spoke about this before, didn't we, Toot?
Yes, we did. Great map for, well, at least one of these teams, Carnivora, from what I've seen. Haven't won a lot of their games, whereas Kjell's Disciples have been pretty much unbeaten in everything that they've done. I believe that these two teams faced each other on Villa during the league stage, and the guys from Kjell's Disciples managed to clinch that one, but it was the closest game I think either of them has had. We talked about previously.
Yes,
so
100%. That is the case.
Clubhouse a staple for every team, obviously. So looking forward to seeing what these two guys do here.
That coastline might be a bit of a wild card, as Kjells, we've seen them there that one time, as we mentioned before, against Mouse Plays White, but we are yet to see Carnivora on that map. So maybe they've been saving it. Maybe it's just a hidden... They've got something going on there that's a bit crazy. We'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a battle, I think, in a lot of ways, as can Carnivora keep up with some of the fragility that their opposition have? Kjell's Disciples, they have been rather ruthless, stomping on teams a little bit. The stats definitely in their favor in terms of just straight KDs. But what can Carnivora do to really try and catch up and make sure they overcome it on maps that not necessarily 100% favor them, Toot?
So, apologies, sorry, I'm still having some sound issues, it seems.
That's all right. McCready.
Sorry, I missed
Okay.
Apologies.
Right. I'm looking at these maps, and I'm saying, okay, Clubhouse, like you said, it's an explosive start. It really is strong, and I feel like we're gonna see this sorted out on Coastline. And if not on Villa, it's all 100% gonna come down to the player that wins, the team that wins Coastline, in my opinion. Villa is a map that we look at and we say, well, it's an inherently defender-sided map, but with a good attacking team, good aggression, good coordination in their pushes, it becomes very attacker-sided very heavily. A lot of map control can be taken early. You can get a lot of advantages when it comes to fragging out. Because you think about the roam game, a typical roam game on Villa, you actually expose yourself quite a bit. And an attacking team that can get these players in power positions like 90 and Red Stairs, they can cut you off. They can find the kills, and then it becomes very lopsided for the attackers. I feel like a skill set that's going to be given to the team that wins out Coastline. The team that wins Coastline, in my opinion, are going to win Villa, because both maps require that aggression, that coordination, that knowledge of what roamers should be doing, and how to take advantage of an offensive lineup.
Not being caught out by those pesky attackers who are on top of their intel game. That's the thing that I think might give Carnivora the edge if they are right on the top of their intel game, can counter as a team unit. That's the sort of thing that they need to do to see out their opponents. It does seem like we've actually got attack it. Oh, who is that? Sorry, I'm getting the players' names confused in my mind now. I'll just wait a second to see whether we've got Kjell's on defense of Villa and then attack of Coastline. We were speaking about this before and seeing if Kjell start on the attack or not with Yannick, who is our open master in the background. Thank you very much, Yannick. But that's going to be a really interesting one, Toot, if you can hear us.
I can slightly, yeah, sorry. Apparently I've got some microphone issues as well. Tonight isn't a good...
It's a Monday. I think we can let you off on that one, dude. I just want to say, while we're actually here, Ebac, I think between the three of us, I feel like we have enough hair, like for two normal sets of hair. Because you see, Toot's got a very nice clean-shaven look. I've got a very... I think I got struck by lightning look, or maybe I stuck my finger into one of my components on the PC. I don't know. I don't know. Ebac actually has a relatively normal amount of hair. I feel like, we average it out quite nicely. Two normal sets of hair.
I think I've got the kind of just got out of bed mess at the moment, which may or may not be accurate.
Hey, we'll leave the mystery in it there, dude. Come on.
Dear me. Anywho, yeah. So we should be going on to the game any minute. Sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a little bit slow behind the scenes. I'm gonna just dive right on in and say predictions. Toot, I'm gonna give you one guess. Who's taking it away today?
So for me, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, I'm gonna have to go with Kjell's Disciples tonight. Probably a 2-0 from the sounds of it.
What about you, McCready?
I feel like Kjell's Disciple is the obvious answer based on their fragging ability and what I've heard as well, in the same vein as Toot, but I don't want to, I don't want to go for a complete stomp with the predictions. I'm going to say Carnivora a 2-1 though. If they're able to win anything, it's going to be coming down to that Clubhouse. They win that map, and they just have strats prepared for Villa.
Yeah, maybe having that mental advantage from winning out the first map might give them the start that they need on Coastline to hold off against Kjell's Disciples' really strong attacking. That could be a good point for them to try and keep in. obviously, I think most people realize table-wise, stats-wise, record-wise, especially individually, there is a slight edge to Kjell's Disciples today. They finished on 24 points ahead of Carnivora's 22 in the league season. But it's all very marginal. It's those 2 points, it's those couple of kills, and as you mentioned with maps like Villa and Coastline, it's those key players in the right positions getting the kills that can really impact a round. And if those just happen to go one team's way and not the other, the game can just flip on its head entirely. So it's very, very difficult to call. Me personally, I don't know. I feel like we spoke about the history in terms of teams coming up from Open and all this. There is no darker horse than the bottom seeded team at the very bottom of Open, because they've won it before. That's where Shreks and Hobbits were 2 seasons ago. So who knows? It could happen. So I'm back in Carnivora today. They win the first map, which is their best chance to do that. And then I'm thinking they probably lose the second map. And then their team leader, their IGL, just motivational speech, fantastic movie-like moment, and then they come back and clinch it on overtime of Villa, and we go all the way. That's what I'm hoping
So essentially, for you, map 1 is the decider. If they take map 1, then that's it. They're winning it all.
Ooh. Well, there's our opinions. Do let us know yours in the meantime. Not sure what's going on with the teams right now. As to
Ebac. While we have some time, we can look towards Clubhouse, and I think operator bans is going to be very important. Obviously, Thatcher and Maverick are going to be the 2 more predictable ones. Maybe a Cade in there as well, but I feel like when we look at the maps and the playstyle of these players, do you feel like, say the Maverick, there was a 3rd attacker ban? Do you think it would go to one of the Trackle operators? Would you say a Jackal or a Nomad would favor Kjell's or the
It's tough with
the other side?
Open Division. Often, I'd say if this were contenders teams, as for the other teams playing in later play days, a contenders ban is Monty on Clubhouse especially. It's something that you see out all the time. I've seen very, very little to predict that it would be something maybe like a Jackal or otherwise. I'm thinking it's just the standard, the double hard breach. Whether it is the Thatcher combo, maybe with a Hibana, that's the sort of thing that Open do like to do here. But there is that kind of open element for the defensive side, I think. What do you think, Toot?
Yeah, I mean, I always love to see a Maverick ban on Clubhouse. Thatcher is the go-to, but Maverick, to me, is much harder to counter, especially when you're talking about the likes of CCTV with the main wall on the outside. I do always like to see a Maverick ban to counter against that, because Thatcher is easier to counter, I think, than Maverick on this map. So I would always go for a Maverick over a Thatcher. It's a good call, to be fair, on the Jackal. There is known to be heavy roam games. Strip Club is a very untouched area by a lot of people, so it's often good to see roam games into Strip and then a Jackal and maybe someone else pinching to take that down. But Monty isn't to be underestimated either. Again, for CCTV, very strong to push up that garage staircase along the catwalk and straight in towards that site. So yeah, all 3 I think are really strong bans. But I mean, we'd expect Maverick and Thatcher. But who knows? Maybe we'll see a couple of the others come out just as a bit of a wild card ban, which would be interesting.
I think yesterday, it wasn't yesterday, it was last play day, I believe, we saw in Major Division a decent amount of Mira as well. And when she's not banned on this map, she can be an absolute menace. So that might be an important one to lock down, as teams have overlooked it somewhat in the past. And she's the sort of operator who could give just a slight fragging edge to a team who might not necessarily be on the front foot at that particular moment. So that's going to be a really interesting one. And it does seem like we're going to be going into the game very soon, which is very nice to see. So we can get right on into the action with Clubhouse. I'm not 100% sure. Do you guys know who is starting on the attack or defense of Clubhouse yet?
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I've literally just come through.
I haven't seen that. So that could be quite an interesting thing, because we spoke about how Carnivora, they need to start well. Defensive side might give them the advantage, McCready.
Yeah, it might do. You look at that and you say, okay, we got the defensive. Let's get rounds on the board. Let's start everything off strong. So we go into the attack. There's less pressure, because as long as you've done the work in the first half, then you can say, right, let's ride off this. We only need to get a couple of rounds. They need to get, say, 6. But there's also a flip side to it. You can say, right, we're on the attack. Let's get the hard part out of the way. Let's make sure we get 1 or 2 rounds, and then it doesn't matter how bad we do. We go into the defense, and suddenly, well, we have an opportunity to bring things back, and, well, it seems we are going to be getting into the game. Kjell's on the defense first. I'm going to expect an aggressive playstyle. I mean, from what I've heard, I feel like this is a team that are going to rely on their roaming abilities, their mechanical abilities, and just their game sense on how Carnivora are going to play. Maverick will be that first ban that you were talking about, Toot.
Yeah, it's no big surprise. I think, if I remember rightly, this was Kjell's map pick, so interesting that Carnivora has actually chosen to start on attack, as talked about by Ebac. But no big surprise to see the Maverick taken off the board. He's just so powerful for that main wall. And then there we go, the Thatcher, which not going to surprise anyone. So pretty standard bans coming out here. The big question is going to be, what do we see on defense? Do we see the Valkyrie ban? Do we see the Mirror ban? Which, with Mirror taken out, effectively stops you from going to gym or bedroom. But Kaid, as you say, McCready.
Yeah, it simply has to be Kaid. If you look at Thatcher and Maverick being taken off the board, Kaid is too powerful for the bottom floor. I mean, you look at the bottom floor and you say, well, you can still open that kitchen hatch. However, you look at the other hatches in stock, you can't open those, simply put. You have to get below them and shoot out the utility, and at that point, you're pushing onto site. The last ban is going to be the Valkyrie, and will take away a lot of opportunity for the defenders to catch sneaky moments for the attackers. I mean, you look at Valkyrie, and she has seen a much higher pick rate too. And I'm attributing this to Echo not being invisible anymore. Because he's not invisible, he's not being picked as much, and when he is picked, you can just see him and shoot him, so IQ isn't on the board. Suddenly, if you know how to hide a good Valkyrie camera that an IQ can't find, well, without an IQ, there's simply no chance. Gym Bedroom will be bringing out that mirror like you said.
Yeah, no big surprise there. I mean, gym and bedroom isn't typically the first site for anyone to go to, as we know. Normally we'll see a CCTV followed by church, or vice versa, with gym and bedroom being the tertiary site, but interesting that Kells have decided to go there for their primaries. So either they feel it's their strongest one, or it's just a bit of a weaker option and they want to get it out of the way. But with Mirror on the board, then why not just go straight to gym and bedroom and get that done and dusted? So it's going to be interesting to see what they manage to bring out here. And obviously with the Aruni there to make all of those holes that are very valuable, that's going to save on shotgun shells and make a lot more utility available for this defense. And we are going to see that standard mirror window going up in bathroom. No big surprises with castle, casting up all the standard barricades. I think we're going to get a very standard setup coming out here from Kells, who seem like they've come into this very decided on what they're going to do. Their bans were as quick as a flash compared to Carnivora. They know what site they're going to go to first with that mirror. So I think these guys have got this game mapped out and know exactly what they're going to be doing for the rest of this matchup, while Carnivora might be a little bit more on the back foot. But they've got the attackers you need to attack this site, so it'd be interesting to see how this one's going to play out with all of this utility on the board for them.
Yeah, I feel like the Kali is a very important bring as well, because you look at this setup, and a lot of it for Kjell's definitely relies upon you being able to just section off the attackers. You're looking at that cache. First of all, they need to take control of that area. Then they need to go over towards construction, which has a mirror window and a rotate. Then they need to take the master bedroom. A lot of teams may counter this by going around to Jacuzzi, but with a mirror on the board, no Thatcher, no Maverick, it's going to be a lot harder. So we're going to see Carnivora want to go towards that cache CCTV take, and in doing so, they're going to have to clear out these defenders, the Aruni, the Jaeger. That's going to make life impossible to really deal with this. Emilio is watching it, but you're simply waiting for somebody to really break character and give away a free kill. That's simply not going to happen. Utility and information will come through, and suddenly we're going to see Carnivora start their droning, realizing we're going to have to get below and exert some pressure.
Yeah, we've got the standard extended hold over here into cache and CCTV, so we can see that the guys on Carnivora are really focusing on that at the moment to push that player out. Aruni's in a strong position, looking through that drone hole, but can be just as easily taken out from the other side of it, so she's going to back out. But this is where the attack is going to focus themselves right now, is just getting into cache, taking control of it, and making sure that that player isn't going to stop them moving their way through construction. But as they do make that push, they manage to take one player down, and that's going to be Svebo playing on the castle, which looks like it was over on the other side of the map. But also with a trade, Ash is taken out of play along with Envy as well, and that allows Kells to take that early lead on the defense. And they're going to play very aggressively on this staircase now, waiting for the players to push up. But Iana, looking blinded by that sight of hers, that 2-time sight, is going to get caught out by the Aruni making her way down that staircase. And with Kjell going down as well, leaving... I'm just going to say Ace because I've got no idea how to pronounce that name. Leaving Ace essentially in a 1 versus 4, but he does manage to get that quick frag and is going to pick up his teammate, who's going to get revived. But we are going to lose that full health player, an arguably better player to make this push against the 3 players, all on her own with just 20 HP in a 1 versus 2.
Yeah, very awkward position to be in right now. You have Bobby, he's quite low HP, you have to give them a lot of credit, but right now you're looking at Callie, and the main part of the Callie is this primary weapon is very difficult to deal with. Utility will be wasted trying to burn out the Surya Gate, and it's just not going to happen. You're going to have to go through this funnel point where no doubt the defenders are going to be watching. Player over towards Jim, player over towards that main stairs, no doubt, and with that secondary sidearm, you're going to have to make that push with 8 seconds left. Bobby realizing you hold this position, you can find that kill, you're going to be able to do it. Kjell's a very comfortable defense on the start. Very, very well played by that Aruni to hold these power positions. The retake of main stairs was incredible for me, and the way that they wasted so much time. Carnivora, you might have wanted to start with the defense. That is the first round on the tertiary bomb site that you talked about, taken off immediately. Now we're probably going to go to that bottom floor, I feel, with the way the bands have really worked out.
Yeah, if Kjell's can lock it out quite... I was going to say quite so easily, but let's be fair. It got down to a 2 versus 1, so it wasn't quite as straightforward as it might have been. But to win it that convincingly, like we say on the tertiary bomb site, doesn't particularly bode well for the guys on Carnivora as we go into the more standard primary and secondary bomb sites. It was unfortunate there at the end for Carnivora and Callie. She had no drones left. A single shot sniper rifle, very difficult to push into a site for close-up gunfights. The back was against the wall, very little that could be done. So not a big surprise to see it lost, but would like to have seen more of a battle coming out from Carnivora. They lost a couple of lives to some very unfortunate, I was going to say mistakes, but even then to say mistakes, like I say, we had the player coming up that main staircase, looking down the 2-time site, and was just completely blinded to the player that was actually just sitting there at the top of the staircase waiting. So it's just some unfortunate overlooking coming out there from Carnivora, costing them that round. Hopefully we'll see them do better on this site, but I'm not sure we will see it just yet. I think we might be seeing more of a late game pickup for Carnivora. If they're going to do anything, I think we'll see it maybe in round 3 and 4 onwards. I think these first couple of rounds, 2 or 3 rounds, could be a write-off, and then we'll see them start to come back, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the logic behind it, but I feel like right now you're in a position where if you are Carnivora, you need to start picking up very quickly. Like we said, getting a strong start is definitely where this team are going to find any victory if they can get it. Now, definitely, they brought the lineup for the actual CCTV site, so they're able to open things up very quickly. The Callie gets a lot of use. But we're going to see a very, very good bandit trick coming through. Gez able to find Ruby, and you have to use that second Selma charge, but with no bandit left on the board, it's going to require utility to stop that breach coming through. You're not going to get that full rotate, though, but Sammy's going to jump in, able to find 1 kill, finds the Raptors player. We said they needed to start off strong. This is it. Gets a 3rd as well. Hello, Sammy. Nice to meet you. You will get taken away by Zemo, but a 1 versus 4, and Zemo realizes this push is going to be coming out very quickly. Looks at the kill onto Typical, but they close it down, and Carnivora, as soon as we started to doubt them, just stepped up in a huge way.
That's a great attack from them, with Sammy just opening doors. Just 1 kill on the board. So I'm not sure who even got that first kill. It happened so quickly, but then we just saw Sammy just pushing directly into sight through that window, just turning, taking out the player hard to the left. I don't know if that was based on intel or just firing onto pretty default positions. I mean, let's face it, that operator, I think it was either smoke or mute, sat there by radio in a very standard position, so no big deal for an Ash to just jump in and just pre-fire it and hope for the best. It paid off, and then just allowed to walk through site pretty freely and almost had complete site control, but managed to get shut down, but a little bit too late. The damage was already done. There was nothing that could stop the bleeding. The rest of the attackers managed to get that main wall open and just start pushing their way in and just shut down whoever was left playing on that east staircase and take that round in very dominant fashion. So
Oh,
yeah, I haven't had dinner yet, but I eat my words, and they're probably enough to fill me up right now to not need dinner for a little while. The great play there from Carnivora. So we've got ourselves a game.
Oh, we really do. I feel like Carnivora, they listened in that little break and they said, okay, we stalled out very easily in cache CCTV. Let's not allow that to happen. Now, they open up that breach very quickly. They say, okay, there's a shield here. There's going to be somebody playing behind it. Sam says, well, I can jump in. I can deal with this. The Rafters player isn't there, so you get that frag. While this is happening, all of Kjell's is scrambling to deal with the Ashe that's inside, tearing them apart. And the rest of Carnivora can just walk in, they can get these power positions, and that's why you said as soon as Sammy died, Carnivora, they were in a position to end everything. Kjell's have decided to just go down to the bottom floor and not worry so much about it. You know, one round, you can let them have it at this point. But you need to start tightening down. You need to be a lot more ready for that, if that's the case. And I feel like Sammy is definitely going to feel emboldened, as will the rest of the attacking lineup here. Very quick roam clear, making sure this garage area and then CCTV is safe. They're not leaving anything to chance. They realize Kjell's, they have an aggressive playstyle. There's only one way that you're going to deal with that, and a roam clear is the name of the game. It's going to take some time, but can you really complain when it comes down to getting the basics right? They're starting out everything. Kjell's not on the roam game, actually. They're playing, they're bunkering in on site, and they're just taking their time. They're waiting because they realize maybe Carnivora, they might be a little hungry.
Yeah, Carnivora there with that last round specifically starting to fight fire with fire, countering the aggression of the aggressors with aggression back, and it worked out very well for them. So it looks like Kjell's Disciples might have prepared for that a little bit better this time and decided, hey, if that's the game these boys are going to play, then let's work with that. Let's hold back. Let's wait for them to come to us, and we will just counter that by holding the angles and holding positions. However, of course, as we are in Church and Arsenal is very commonly known as a site where you don't actually have to roam. You don't have to roam when you're downstairs in Church. You can just bunker up on site, have a player out in blue, player in dirt, the rest of them just playing on site or just very, very shallow around. And that is the option that Kjell's Disciples are trying to take here. But as Sledge goes to open the default holes in the kitchen and the hallway there, we do see that Zemo playing on Legion is waiting and gets that pick through the hole pretty much straight away. And that actually is almost all of the vertical destruction just gone now for the attackers. All they've got left is 4 claymores. That's a lot of claymores playing against the team that are on site. But the only thing they've got for vertical destruction is 1 more lifeline and 2 Ashe breaching rounds. So that vertical aggression and vertical hold, they're not going to be able to really do anymore. So they're going to have to take this head on and start pushing their way in, as Envy does, and he does it masterfully as he takes down 2 players in quick succession, with Sammy taking down another one himself. That's 3 off the board now, and that's a 4 versus 2 in the favor of Carnivora as they start to take control. And the plant is going down in a pretty default spot, with Ruby getting downed but not out just yet. But the chances of him getting revived are very unlikely, as he does get finished off by Envy, with Zemo picking up that last kill. It is a 1 versus 3 post plant. Legion, great operator. He does manage to get 1. That's the triple, but is he going to get the last 2, McCready? That's the question before he can get to that diffuser with 7 seconds remaining to actually stick it.
Yes, time's ticking down. Shingy will be able to find that kill. Zemo, it's not going to happen. A really good push coming out from Carnivora. They knew what they needed to do, and they did it perfectly. They got that vertical control, and they lost... Well, they lost typical very, very early on. That's not something you can appreciate. I mean, 4 claymores in pocket, sure. I mean, you want to worry about this flank game, but maybe not that much. You can bring those breaching charges. You have the Ashe and Zofia soft destruction, but then you have to leave the Maestro cameras alone. The big thing for that push was Envy played really well. Rotated towards blue, started putting pressure on them. You find the kill in blue, suddenly you have Sammy already in moto, you've got a crossfire set up, that blue position's taken, suddenly that player inside Church is dead, and you've got Guest covering that long hallway. Because of that, well, it's even harder for the defenders to really get over. You have blue, which is the main rotation position for a lot of teams on the defense. It's a very, very strong position that you need to be able to hold as a defender and need to take as an attacker. Well, Carnivora took control of it. They lost it afterwards, but at that point it was a 1 versus 2. Carnivora have played that very, very well. We said that they'd have to do a strong attacking side, and the first 2 rounds, well, they certainly have. They've got the 2 rounds a lot of teams feel comfortable picking up on attack. Can they get more? I feel like If they can iron out a lot of these issues on cache CCTV, that can be the case. There isn't a mirror being brought out from Kjell's. They have a mute, but I don't think they've got a jammer on the breach, and it can be dealt with very easily by Envy or Typical's nades. They could go for a Jacuzzi push, and they can catch a lot of Kjell's off guard if they play these windows properly.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup that's going to come here without a mirror, and it looks like they're not even going to use a budget mirror setup by having a bulletproof camera on the other side of the reinforcement in bathroom. But other than that, it looks fairly standard with the rotates in between the two sites, right tucked up against the windows. And we did see the signal jammers going down there right at the end, and we can see those starting to have impacts on drones. But it looks like the attackers are going to set up for a fairly default take. They are going to set up one drone down here in the bar. That's going to be their flank watch to make sure that no one is coming out of strip or from downstairs on the bottom floor. But I haven't really noticed if there is a huge roam game going on here. It looks like we've got most of the defenders are actually upstairs very close to the site. A nice grenade there coming out from Typical just narrowly misses, I think that was Zemo, who does back out. And this is a really interesting setup that they've got upstairs, which I saw in a recent, or not a recent, but an ECS game that I cast a little while ago, where we have a castle just setting up in that little cubby hole in logistics, and the amount of time it can waste as the attackers try to push in from construction and also to pinch from the logistics hatch. That position can be very, very powerful. Now we can see a lot of pressure coming from down below with grenades, but it's still not enough to move that player out, as we do get an attack being lined up this main staircase. But yet again, just like round number 1, we can see a player sitting right there at the top of that main staircase just waiting for that push. Now we do have a 5 versus 4 as Envy does get taken down. That's some important site entry taken out of play there with Zofia being off the board. That's lifelines gone, and also some extra drones that aren't going to be able to come into play. But we can see that a lot of work is being set up here on this jacuzzi wall by these two players waiting to push in along with that diffuser for a pretty standard take. But let's see if they will be able to be successful, as Sides is just going to sit watching this bedroom window.
Yes, main stairs, that's going to be a key position right now, and Typical isn't going to be able to win out that gunfight. That's going to be Carnivora getting a second player advantage. Zvebo will be taken down and will be killed out by Gez as Sammy gets a kill onto Zemo and opens up the cache CCTV side. But okay, you're looking at this, Carnivora, it's a 3 versus 3. You have actually got a lot going for you in this position. Players on the windows, players on towards Jacuzzi side, and right now Sammy getting a kill inside Jim, just pushing in. Now Ruby has to hold this position. Bobby Boy can't find a frag. It's all down to Ruby in a 1 versus 3. You're holding one breach, you hear that plank going down, but the castle barricade is going to go 2 ways. Ruby's going to find a kill onto Sammy. Can you find it onto Shingy? No, you can't. And now you're in a 1 versus 2 pose planned. 2 kills to find. That diffuser, you have to be on it by 7 seconds. Ruby, you're halfway there already, but guess is gonna make sure it doesn't happen. Sitting on main stairs, Carnivora picking up a 3rd round on the trot on the attack. They are looking strong. We said they needed to, and now I think we're working out why they're on the attacking side first. Now, the question is, can they do it again? We're probably going to head back towards that gym bedroom, maybe CCTV. Kjell's, what adaptations can they make? They had a strong starting round, but as soon as that round was over, they just really haven't had anything. No refrags.
Yeah, it's not been a strong start for Kells after that great first round that they had. They've looked kind of lackluster. They've won a fair few gunfights. We have seen some good gunfights being won by them, but the guys on Carnivora, specifically the likes of Sammy and Guess, are just coming in and doing great work for their team right now and getting enough frags to be able to close this out. I mean, we're seeing Cali actually almost top fragging, and that's not an operator that is supposed to top frag. We'd be looking at the likes of Typical Oniana and Sledge, or Envy, who's been playing Zofia for the whole game. We'd be looking for those guys along with Sammy to get the frags, but it's actually been the hard support or the backup support who's supposed to be like the last person in. And to be fair, he has typically been the last person in. He didn't manage to clean up in 1 round, but in that last one did a great job of supporting Sammy there, getting those frags at the end with that secondary gun there, doing great work. So Carnivora starting to look like the true animals here and are just eating Kells for lunch as they go 3-1 up. And I'm not sure what Kells need to do to slow this down. Maybe the attack is where it's at right now for Clubhouse, and we will see it flip around when Kells switch sides. But at the moment, Carnivora, despite what we thought at the start, are looking very, very strong. And maybe Ebac's prediction is going to come true here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went for that as well. Don't do me a dirty there, man. But I think the big thing for Kjells is they're taking a lot of gunfights that they necessarily aren't going to win. They're taking a lot of gunfights where they feel comfortable, but ultimately, Carnivora, they're prepared for it. They know someone's going to come down the main stairs. Somebody's going to be doing this, or this, and that, or whatever. Sammy, position on CCTV window. This is one to look out for. Remember, last time, soon as the breach was open, information was given, and Sammy was right through that window. Kjells, they're ready for it this time. Now, Svebo will take a little bit of damage, bandit tricking. Envy will rotate around to get these bandit charges off the board. Sammy's still holding the angle. The peek's gonna come through, and Ruby, you did not need to peek that. The first kill is there. Sammy looks for a second, but isn't gonna get it. Player in construction and a player in rafters. It looks like Kjells, they're ready for this heavy CCTV window push, but there's just nothing at the moment. Scythe takes some damage, but gets the kill onto Envy. Sam, still alive, can catch that rotate back onto Scythe. Not gonna be able to, unless he peeks it again. Something I don't think Kjells should be doing. They have been getting very, very aggressive and peeking a lot of angles that you do not peek as a defender. Carnivora, very good position now. That bridge, I believe, might be open. I'm not exactly sure. But regardless, the amount of pressure Sammy's applying, it means it's just going to be impossible for the defenders to hold CCTV. The construction rotate will come through in typical looking for the Jaeger. We'll just be looking to clear out these roamers. You still have that 4 versus 4, but you have a lot of time on your side. You have a minute to work with. And you know where most of these players are. That Rafters player is stuck there and can't move now, so they just burn the ABS. They burn the utility, and then they catch Zemo lacking. That's exactly what Guest is able to do. Rafters goes in favor of the attackers, as does CCTV. Sammy on the window again, getting another kill in Scythe, ready to take the place. Do not get aggressive, do not peek it. Typical finding that kill in Sammy. Rotates around, realizing a C4 might be on the cards for the defense. A very, very strong round from Carnivora. Kjells, you've got to stop peeking. I think that's the big issue for them.
Yeah, we saw Ruby go down when, like you called, he really didn't need to peek that window. It was like he had a sniff that someone was out there. He knew, wait a minute, last time there was an Ash out there, just jumped in, took my head clean off. Let's have a little poke my face out. Let's see if he's there this time and get a free kill. It just did not work out. Did not need to peek it, and that mute was such a strong position sitting there by radio to cover both sites. And once that was gone, that left a load of holes for the attackers to push in and kind of cleared the way for the attack to just dominate. We had Jaeger just poking around by that construction window, took a load of damage from Zofia, just pre-firing through the window in the case of someone being there. Saw them taking a load of damage, or given a load of damage rather. Jaeger did back out, but then thought, wait a minute, that guy's going to be reloading or something. I'll see if I can catch him on the back foot. Re-peeked it, but no, Zofia still had ammo in the gun. Managed to get that pick. And you can't be too defensive all the time when you're playing on defense. You do have to take the fight to the attackers sometimes. But I'm just not sure that Kjells did it at the right times or did it effectively enough, and that was their undoing. As like you say, we had the standard player on rafters just penned in and couldn't really go anywhere. They had the upside down rappel covering that position. We saw Gez with the sniper rifle taking advantage of that entrapment and just took him down with that clean sniper rifle shot from that doorway as he just wasn't paying attention. And then again, attackers just flooded in and took control. Now here as we get into this next round, round number 6, the last side of the first half, we do see a standard setup being deployed here by the defenders. And they are going to play similar positions as well. We're going to see Melusi downstairs just waiting for a push. I'd like to see a castle play down here, to be honest. Holding off a lot of the attack coming in from down below and applying pressure as Ruby is going to try and bandit trick here. But he is going to trick the wrong wall at first. So that first bit of utility seemed like it was tricking the bandit, as nothing is actually done. They are going to try and bait that bandit out. But they aren't going to send anyone down below to shift that bandit out position. So there's going to need to be a lot of coordination coming out here with Zofia stacked up to use that lifeline to force that bandit off of the trick. And it looks like the first one was successful, but the second one not quite so much, as the bandit batteries are going to go down, and that trick is going to be successful with that wall remaining closed, which is pretty much going to force the attack now to switch around construction and try coming in from another angle, because that wall on the balcony at the moment just isn't accessible to them. And it's not a huge issue to not have that wall open, but it can be detrimental to try and funnel all of your players in here through this construction doorway, which it looks like is what's going to happen, with maybe a bit of pressure being applied from CCTV window. And also down below, we just saw some holes getting opened up from lounge, but it's not going to be enough right now to really make an impact. We can see the player on rafters just looking down through a cheeky little hole in the top of that wall of garage to try to stop Envy from applying too much pressure or being too much danger down here in lounge. But as long as he doesn't expose himself to that doorway and sits behind this shelving, he can sit here and just have complete control almost of that cash room.
Yeah, what you can do if you're Envy, you hold that position, you make sure a bandit trick isn't going down and construction wall will open up. Typical's gonna open up frags, we're gonna be able to find one kill. Envy gets a second. Typical finding a second of their own, will be able to get that kill, and now Ruby is sat on breach. He is a jump in, gets that frag. Scythe answers with one of their own and a 2 versus 3. Scythe's able to find another one. That's what you said, the bottlenecking in construction. You have to open that breach, you have to open that wall and put pressure on Scythes together, but well, now there's a player on red stairs. There's a player in construction as well. And Gez is going to be able to find that kill. Cash has just opened up. Ruby, you've got to go on the hunt. Holding the breach, you realize that's probably where the player's going to be. That's probably where the diffuser is. You find that one kill. Can you find a second and keep your team from having a 4-2 split? Can you stop Carnivora from getting a 5th round on the board? Yes, you can! You're finding Envy, you're finding Gez, and you get Kjell's a 4-2 split, but not in their favor. They're going onto the attack, and Carnivora, they've been looking really, really strong so far. Honestly, their attacks has just been so impressive, and I feel like this is the Carnivora that we didn't expect to see. They have gone to work. They have put in VOD review, strat building. They've realized where people need to be at the right time in the right moment. I feel the biggest problem with that attack in that round, however, was what you said. Envy was down below. Envy, for that whole round, could have put that pressure onto the bandit. You didn't even have to actually kill the bandit. They just need to know that you're there, and they'll stop bandit tricking. Simply put.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. That breach remained shut because of those mute jammers, and by the Kali charge, you were also destroying the Selmas, so you had to put more down. There wasn't a lot of hard breach left. Really good attempt to bring it back with the frags. You found a couple of picks, you opened up cash, but then it just came down to Envy being able to sneak around and just walk around. Carnivora going on to their defensive side. 4-2 up. Like I said, they got the hard bit out of the way now. They've just got to win 2 more rounds, and that's overtime guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the boys from Kjell's Disciples can bring out here as they do switch it round and go onto the attack. We've seen attack be very dominant when it came to Carnivora being on attack. We talked previously about Kjell's steamrolling people when they move on to attack, and this being possibly the end of the round, or sorry, the end of the map at least for Kjell's Disciples once they move on to attack. It might be that Carnivora have shown enough aggression and ability in these first 6 rounds to make Kjell's Disciples think twice and maybe take this a little bit more seriously than they might have been. That's not to say they weren't taking those first 6 rounds seriously. Clearly they were. There was no memeing going on or anything by any stretch of the imagination. They had the setups, they had everything. They were just losing gunfights and peeking stuff they didn't need to too much. But now they've seen that Carnivora actually isn't going to be the walkover that a lot of us might have expected them to be based on performance so far in ECS. Maybe we'll see them tightening things up here on attack, maybe being a little bit more cautious, and maybe even not being as aggressive as they would have been, because they've just got that fear that, hey, these gunfights aren't going to be quite as straightforward as we think they're going to be. And as we go into the first round on defense for Carnivora, they have gone to that standard site of CCTV and cash, and we've already had that first quick trade in the first minute with the standard roam game of Envy on Jaeger being taken out. But Sophia, classic entry for the attack, has been taken out of play as well, and that's going to leave us in a 4 versus 4 with the defenders just watching cams, just sitting back and just biding their time, waiting for the attackers to make the mistakes.
I feel like this is a big problem of Kjell's defense. Was on their defense, they played very aggressively. Now on the attack, they're going to have to do the same. They found that opening kill and got traded out. Now the breach is open, and we're at the halfway mark, and they're not really doing anything. Now it feels like they've shifted. They're playing a more defensive game on their attack, and this is the exact opposite we wanted to see. We wanted to see them keep this aggression. Shingi is just holding rafters. Sammy is sitting in construction. There's no problem. I understand you got a drone, but you have to be able to act upon this information that you're getting. Bobby Boy applying zero pressure on the window. Zima's the only one really applying any problems for Carnivora on that breach. Just holding, just waiting. Ruby's going to start moving forward, going to look at actually getting these Selma charges off the board. But that's 2 pieces of utility that you have to waste, and then you have to try and actually open it up. A swing could come through. It could be absolutely deadly, or a C4 could follow. Impact trick, it's all on the board right now. Kjell's wasting a lot of time. Carnivora very much ready to get onto another round on the board, and Sammy's going to push them one way forward. Bobby Boy will find that frag grenade and gets the kill. But Shingi's just going to rotate around. Kjell's aren't applying any pressure on this breach, and right now, Typical's just able to get a frag. Gotta be looking for another one as well. A 2 versus 3. Your hard breach is down. You have the diffuser, but right now you need to get past a smoking red stairs. And Rooney, you get to see Shingi able to find that frag, and Typical just closes it down with a jump into the sky. Ruby is going to die. That was a very uneventful round from the attackers, and like I said, I think it comes down to that. Yeah, they're playing too aggressive on the defense and too defensive on the attack.
Yeah, they started out, they used their utility to get the wall open fairly uncontested. It wasn't even difficult to get that main wall open into CCTV, but once they had it, they just didn't really take advantage of it. Most of them swung around to go to construction and start to push in from that side. They had the diffuser there. They were ready to go in and make that their push, but they needed to make the most of having that main wall open in CCTV to apply pressure from the other side rather than just stalling out, which they did. They just, once they got the holes open, they stalled out for what seemed like a minute, maybe more, just sitting, sort of trying to plan what they're going to do. And I don't know if, like I said at the start of the round, if it was to do with fear of taking on those gunfights. Maybe Carnivora have just done enough to make the Disciples fear the guns that Carnivora are carrying, but they just stalled out for too long and then just didn't manage to push in. They left the defenders in prime positions to shut them down. We had Smoke sitting at the top of these stairs just with that useful hole. We saw it at the end there, just chucking gas grenades with like 12 seconds to go, completely blocking off that doorway, and the last 2 players would have had to push their way through that breach that they'd opened in construction wall, but they had someone else in CCTV and around just sitting, watching, waiting for them to make that push and shut them down. And that's what Carnivora managed to do very, very well as they go to 5-2, and they find themselves just 1 round away from match point. This could be the last round that we see before we have a match point here. And it looks like we're going to get a very standard setup downstairs in Church and Arsenal when it comes to shields and set up around the dirt tunnel and Church and Arsenal areas. The question is, what kind of take are we going to get coming out here from the Disciples? They've bought Hibana, so we can pretty much guarantee that this kitchen hatch is going to get opened up. We'll likely also see a push towards Moto. Will we see any pressure applied to dirt? Possibly, but typically most teams will leave that until last. What I generally would see coming out is a hole getting opened up in dirt tunnel wall just for a late rotate if it's needed, but considering the only hard breach being brought out by the Disciples is Hibana, I think it's mostly going to be hatch play and reliance on dropping those hatches with maybe a push down main stairs. But with a Smoke here with a shotgun up close, that ain't going to be easy.
Yeah, I really like this position of Guess, actually, because you're holding this position, anybody walking down will get a round of box shot, but now that hole's open up, you can cover the drop as well as the rest of Carnivora, who can do exactly that. The big thing for me about this push is that we're seeing very little actual roam clear. Carnivora can stash away a player if they wanted to, up on the top floor. It's gonna be Envy. Getting by, has bullet holes ready to take a gunfight and distract Kjells, but nothing is there. This is a must-win round for Kjells. Obviously, like we said, match point. But if you lose this round, suddenly you're shaking their confidence. this is a team that have really struggled to actually be knocked off their block aside from that first round. Shingy will take some damage. The vertical play has started out, but Guess doesn't have to move. Bobby Boy's more committed to actually taking the gunfight through the vertical than actually making the vertical holes. This means that, well, Bobby Boy, you're in a very risky position. If you die, well, then who's going to do it? You're going to be relying upon your Ashe. You're going to be relying on a lot of the operators that will need that utility later. For Banshees, for Goyos. Svebo will be droning down and will be spotting out the smoke, but Shingy gets taken away. Envy strikes on the roam, able to find one, make that two. You could go back, you can go down to sight in a 3v3, I'd recommend it, but Envy doesn't want to listen. Wants to get this kill onto sight, so just backs away and says, we'll deal with that another time. Ruby is going to be able to find a kill to give them a little advantage, and the plant will start going down. Ruby, with the 50% mark, going up to 100, we're in a retake position. I want to see Envy get back on the top floor. Guess in blue has a lot of potential to close this down, but you need to be careful about your gunfights. Kjells, they have drones, they have information, they have the post-plant position. Carnivora taking their time, 30 seconds left. Let's take some damage towards that dirt area. You know someone's there, but do you know about Habana? Envy on the retake is looking for the Ashe. I don't think they know about the Ashe either. Sides realizes this, gets the kill. Guess tries to find one onto Ruby, but nothing's landing. And the swing comes out, and Kjells are able to keep themselves in the fight. They stave off a match point, but they have to do it 3 more times.
Yeah, that was a good round coming out there from the Disciples on attack. They had the man advantage 3 versus 2. They had one watching the hatch. That's all he needed to do. But we had Jaeger just pushing up to try and take that out of play, because ultimately, if you don't take the guy off of the hatching kitchen, the chance of you getting a retake very, very slim. Very challenging to fight that position. So Jaeger had to go up the stairs to try and get that, but it just wasn't successful, and eventually left us in it was 1 versus 3 at the end there, right? So Manpower just managed to beat it. We had the Ashe upstairs in the kitchen, just watching that doorway, waiting for the push from Jaeger. All the pre-fires had given it away. It was all that the defenders could really do was push upstairs, and it was read into by the attack. They shut it down, leaving Guess all on his own on site to try and pick up those kills. He just didn't have the gunpowder to do it, allowing the Disciples to claw one back and start to try to have a glimmer of hope that they might be able to even this out, and if not, go to overtime, maybe even just take the win. But I would be surprised if we don't see overtime here today. This is the 2nd time now in a row going to Church and Arsenal for Carnivora, and I'd like to think that they probably will have learned enough from that last round to be able to combat it this time. Envy had a great flank from upstairs though, and the attackers are going to be a little bit more wary of that, I would hope, this time round. So I'd be surprised if we could see Envy make that hero play, for want of a better word, coming down that main staircase and just catching 2 on the hop, as they just weren't expecting that positioning. So I'd be surprised if we see that happen again.
There's no Kate on the board. That kitchen hatch is electrified, which means something quite funny, actually. The bandit has placed a charge on the very top. I don't know why. Seems that's exactly.
Oh, he's actually put it in the bar on the
actual hatch.
On the hatch itself.
It's gonna get taken away. The hatch is gonna get opened up, and I mean, sure, why not? But this is Carnivora's map pick. I mean, they're comfortable. They know what they need to do right now. Ruby is prepping this, ready to deal with any impact tricks that aren't gonna be coming down. And Carnivora, well, they have a lot of time and a lot of freedom. They know where these players are, but I want to see this roam clear come through. They lost 2 players to it in that last round. Yes, you shut down Envy in the end, but you let them get away with it for too long. Now, the drones coming through will point out Guess, and they will still say, well, they're going to have a hold in Dirt Tower. Maybe we want to rotate around. Maybe we want to go for Kitchen. Maybe go down main stairs and Moto. Go down Blue. Get all these key positions that bypass Dirt. The committal of droning, I feel like we are going to see a push coming down here. You're going to have to deal with the smoke, and to do that, you're going to have to wait for this smoke canister to dissipate. Ruby, looking to push through, will try and burn these ADSs, and the frag grenade will follow from the smoke, but smoke canister goes through. The drone goes through, and while the shield does get taken away, you still have to deal with Banshees. You still have to deal with that smoke, and Kjells, rightly so, they rotate around. They have main stairs control. They have kitchen. they have a minute 20 to work with. A lot can happen here that really, really will benefit them. But it relies upon Envy not being able to run all the way up cash again.
Yeah, so Envy isn't going to be able to do what he did last time. We've seen the attackers here start to push things a little bit more confidently. They've changed things up. They've started to move down Dirt Tunnel to try and face up to that very standard hold of the smoke in the Dirt Tunnel. We saw the ADSs get taken down and a frag grenade follow it, managing to take down that shield and forcing smoke back. So they do now have complete control of Dirt Tunnel should they need it, and can start to apply pressure down there in the dying seconds should they need to. But Envy is just going to expose his back there in the corner and get taken down by Zofia, being played by Svevo. But with a quick refrag, we do see ourselves in a 3 versus 4 now, with Diffuser in hand of the attackers, as Zofia drops along with Zemo to try to get that plant down. Sides backing up, who does manage to take down Sammy, but 2 quick kills coming out from Carnivora. Gez and Typical specifically, as they get this flank through a hole opened up at the back of this wall. Not sure if that was opened up by the attackers or the defenders. It looked... Who was it? Was it the attackers?
It was the Ash breaching charge.
It looked like an Ash breaching round. Yeah, okay. So they made that hole, and unfortunately that hole went against them, allowing them to get flanked from behind. And yeah, allowing Carnivora to go on to match point. And this is looking really good for Carnivora right now. They've only got 1 to win, whereas Kjells have to win 3 in a row just to stay in the game, and then have to win another 2 rounds to take this map. And it's not impossible, obviously, but when you're coming into a game like this with probably the confidence that the Disciples would have had when you look at the records of both of these teams on paper, it's going to be a huge knock to the confidence and the mindset to be able to fight back from this. So things are looking really good for Carnivora right now, and I'd be surprised if Carnivora didn't take the win. I don't want to jinx it, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this, and not only are you probably going to win this first map, let's be honest, you're looking in a very good position to do so, Carnivora. They just need 1 round, whereas Kjell needs to play the perfect game just to get to overtime, like we saw. But then think about the next map, okay? Kjell's, their fragging ability just hasn't really yielded many results, so going up the coastline, they may not be feeling it. They may be uncomfortable, and that's what you need to do if you want to go for Ebac's prediction of a 2-0, whereas... in my sense, I think I'm still going to say that 2-1. Kjell still have a lot of potential, a lot of glimmers of hope in these rounds. I feel like once you get to coastline, they're definitely going to step up. However, Carnivora are given a really good performance from themselves on attack and defense. I think they have a real shot when it comes to Villa. I think Carnivora can win out this matchup, but right now we're just going to see whether their roamers can close out map 1 of 3. Envy is down below, Guest is nearby, just opening a few hatches, making sure that the roamers actually have the space to roam. That's something Envy has taken control of quite a bit. Envy has been able to just get behind, get around, and do literally whatever he wanted. Right now, though, he's going to start off with shooting a drone. He's able to take away 1. Ruby alerted somebody's nearby, somebody's waiting, someone's trying to catch us off guard. Well, you've got to drone them out again, and if this drone gets shot, then you just see the drop. The breach will start to get open. Guess is looking to try and take that gunfight bravely, and decides to play it safe and not push it. Well, we'll be able to find the kill from a much safer angle. A very nice kill takes away the ace. All that's left is Ruby, who is not nearby that breach, in Jacuzzi. It looks like we're going to see a construction push. You don't have a lot of time to rotate around. Sure, you have time now. A lot of utility to deal with. Bulletproof cameras, utility on the wall, and actually taking construction itself. Right now, Shingi's getting a lot of information for free, and to get that camera, you have got to overextend. Envy still hasn't been dealt with, dude.
Yeah, he's going to be a very strong position down there under that hatch, because as soon as the attackers start to make a play for that wall, which they're doing now, that player down below is just going to be able to shut them down. The hatch being opened forces the attackers through that right-hand side breach that they are now making, courtesy of Hibana. Thank you very much, Hibana, for being able to open a wall at a distance and not expose your teammates to that hatch too soon. But yeah, that hatch is going to be a very strong play, as Envy will just remain down below. But it doesn't matter, because Typical is going to take that 1 down anyway without having to worry about being down below. But we still have the 3 players stacked up here in construction, starting to open up this wall, and it is a heavy construction push, which clearly the defenders are ready for as they go 4-2 up. And it's looking not particularly good right now for the Disciples, although Bobby Boy is starting to do some work for his team, he gets the triple. Is he on for an ace? He manages to take down 3. It's all on him now, along with one teammate. He has Diffuser in hand. He's got to get on drone. He's got 30 seconds and all of the time in the world, almost, to get the intel that he needs, as we can see that most of the defenders are actually over here on the garage side. However, with that hole in the wall and that 1.5 times scope on mute, it's going to be very, very difficult to push in. So what we might well see coming out here is just a slight tucking up in through that breach to plant by the safety of that door frame. But no, as one player starts to push his way through the doorway, he does get taken down, with the other player just pushing up here onto radio, watching that breach, both angles covered by the defense. And Carnivora, they managed to take it.
Never doubted them for a second.
Comfortably.
Never doubted them for a second. Yes, they're able to win things out in a very strong attacking side. Getting that 4-2 split, only one round was won by the attackers on the attacking side for Kjells. So you look at that, and well, I'm simply going to say this team of Carnivora have definitely proven why they deserve to be in the playoffs. They have definitely shown that when it comes to Coastline, we might have a much closer game than we expect to see. They played really well. They've played together, most importantly. A lot of coordination. You look at the end of that round, there was a crossfire. I mean, Envy rotated around so they could both take the gunfight, but even if they didn't move, I mean, you had a player red, you had a player rafters. That's a textbook crossfire for a late round push coming from construction. Very, very well played from them on Clubhouse. That was their map pick. So when we do look towards Coastline, you gotta say, well, Kjells, they might have a little something in the tank there. I'm hoping they do, because I do want to see Villa, I'll be honest.
Yeah, earlier on in the season, Villa was the map that these two teams played each other on, and the record was that Kjell's Disciples won it 7-5, if I recall correctly. So you'd kind of think, maybe this is going to be Kjell's map, but we just saw a very strong Carnivora, as you said. And the question is, have Carnivora done enough to really make the Disciples think we need to be a little bit more careful? And could that take the wind out of their sails when we move over to a more aggressive map? Has that aggressiveness been taken out of the Disciples' lungs, where they're just not going to be able to make that attack because they're too scared? Who knows? They didn't look confident against Carnivora there towards the end, for sure. They stalled a lot. They made the right moves, but they stalled out a lot and just seemed very, very pensive about every move that they made.
Yeah, I feel like second guessing is very, very important. But we are going to be jumping onto Coastline for our second map. And when you think about the playstyle of Kjell on their defense, they swung a lot of angles. They took a lot of gunfights. And on Coastline, that's not as bad a thing as Clubhouse. The question is, are Carnivora going to be ready for it? We will have to wait just a little bit to get into our next map, because we are going to take a short break. We're going to let eBag kind of sit down and just school us on what we should expect to see. And most importantly, we're going to have a nice drink of water. You might want to do the same, so by all means do that. But make sure you're back here in the next 5 minutes or so.
Thank you. See you shortly, McCready.
Welcome back, ladies and gents. I'm E-Back. After that short break, we just needed that. It was such an exciting first map in general on Clubhouse between Kjell's Disciples, who lost out 3-7 to Carnivora, who we spoke about needed that advantage at the very start of the game, and now they've got it. What will we see on our second map, Coastline? We're going to play a good game here. McCready and Toot, who will soon be joining me on screen. I'm going to play a bit of good cop, bad cop, as McCready likes to call it. Toot, give us some positives about both of those teams from Clubhouse.
Positives. Can you hear me all right, by the way? I've changed my audio, so hopefully it'll be better.
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so positives. Well, we saw... Well, positives. So Carnivora, I mean, we saw... I was going to talk about Disciples first, but I couldn't recall the positives. I'll work on those as I talk through Carnivora. So Carnivora, I mean, we saw something from them that I wasn't expecting based on what I heard or what I'd seen previously. We saw them not starting out particularly aggressively, but they started to work on that aggression on their attacking side, and it paid off really well for them. And then they managed to flip it around very, very well as they moved on to defense. When they got into defense, they weren't overly aggressive. They just sat back and they waited for stuff to happen, and they let it happen, and they forced the Disciples to play their game. And a lot of the time, that's what Siege is about. It's making your opponent play your game rather than you trying to play your opponent's game. So Carnivora did that very, very well. They controlled the tempo of the game throughout, and managed to do a really good job of forcing the Disciples into playing the way that Carnivora wanted them to play.
Is it like the Clubhouse game that McCready was talking about in the pre-match, just making sure that everything is as routine and set as possible, but executing it as best they can? And now let's go over to the negative side for McCready. What's something horrible you want to see struck out before the next map, Coastline?
Okay, right. It's a very awkward position because you say something I want to see struck out. No, this is something I didn't want to see before, but I will want to see it on Coastline. Kjell's, they played, and I think I described it in the break as they played a Coastline playstyle on Clubhouse. They'll need to keep that playstyle going on the club where they're comfortable, they're confident, they're taking aggressive gunfights. They're trying to get an advantage, but it's something I don't think they should have done on Clubhouse. They didn't feel like they were very coordinated. I feel like a VOD review is going to be very beneficial to them when it does come to further seasons, especially after the playoffs, or moving further in the playoffs if they do win out the next two maps. But for me, it's something they need to have that little bit more coordination of where players are going to be at certain times. If your ace is on a main breach and hasn't fully got it open, should he be trying to peek through these lines of sight? Should he be giving a smoke in cash a free kill? Little things like that I feel like a little bit of VOD review, a little bit of one-on-one with your coach or somebody else to just kind of talk about your thought process, where you should be thinking about heading towards. That would definitely be a benefit from them. Going over towards Carnivora, because obviously there were a lot of positives, but I feel like there are a few things as well that they do need to tighten up on. I feel like it's these roamers just having that individual playstyle, having that little bit of risk-reward mentality when they're actually executing the roam. I feel like they can benefit a lot from that. We saw Envy on a roam for a couple of rounds. I think the most notable was that bottom floor one that Kjell's actually won. If they're able to get back up top floor, you apply that pressure, because you know there's going to be somebody above if they're going for a plant. Well, then you think, okay, how can I deal with this? How can I put pressure on them? You don't even need to take that gunfight or just walk in, but it's little risk and rewards, little micro decisions that you want to make, because there were other rounds where we saw Envy on the roam, shot a couple of drones, which was great, and hid, but didn't have much more impact than that, just kind of ran back to site. I feel like looking towards that, especially on Coastline, where a lot of aggressive defensive play is seen, roamers can really benefit. That's what I want to see. I want to see them tighten up, maybe be a little bit more aware of what's going on and how you can impact the course.
I feel like our overall message is actually something that's counter to the scoreline at the moment, in that Carnivora need to change their style slightly, and then Kjells need to keep it relatively the same, despite the fact that they lost. So it is a bit bizarre. Not necessarily the thing that we would expect. The thing I'm thinking about right now, the main consideration for me, is the mental side of the game after that first map, because we're going to need a switch in strategy and a bit of a change of plan from both teams in some ways. But what might that affect mentally, given the over-aggression and not working for Kjells? What might they need to be thinking, Toot, this time
So Carnivora possibly need to come in with, I mean, like McCready was saying, maybe a slightly different mindset, just toning it back a bit. On Coastline, a map like Coastline, the roam game is going to prove to be stronger, possibly, or should prove to be stronger than it was on Clubhouse. So I'd like to see a lot more coming out from the roam there, a lot more time wasting. We saw some good roam from Carnivora, but as called by McCready, there was a couple of impactful moments, but for the most part, uh, it didn't really touch the sides too much. So I'd like to see the defensive roams here on Coastline just being a little bit more time wasting and just getting those early picks. I'd like to see some spawn pings coming out, actually. That's what I'd like to see.
We need that over aggression from Carnivora, the sort of thing that wasn't too prevalent on Clubhouse but is almost necessary here over on Coastline, which we are headed to imminently. So I'm very happy to see what we get up to there. Sorry, I misheard what was said. Obviously, I thought we were going straight away. My mistake.
That's what I heard as well.
Anywho, ban-wise, what are we thinking here that could really impact the game? We saw a Valkyrie that was kind of the throw up in the air last time, but it didn't really work for Kjell's disciples. Might they do something similar here, McCready?
I feel like, most importantly, a Nomad ban is going to be on the cards. I feel like a Jackal does have a lot of value, but on a map like Coastline, it's very boxed in. It's very linear. You have 2 staircases. You have 3 air jabs. You can put down 2 air jabs and have another one for maybe a very powerful position. Maybe think about your kitchen. You think about the rotate. Get an air jab in there. That position suddenly becomes a lot less powerful as long as that bathroom is empty. So, a Nomad ban... The only way to circumnavigate a Nomad on the board is to A, either ban it, or B, bring an Oryx, and a lot of teams will not go for that second one. They get a lot more utility out of operators like Smoke or Malusi, where they just bring the actual players. They actually have the utility as well, rather than just, I can jump up a hatch to get around an air jab.
Yeah, I'm interested to see with the Smoke changes as well, as the kind of, whether that makes him less prevalent on this particular map and maybe teams stop bringing him as much. That might be an interesting one to see. Toot, as opposed to those attacking bans we spoke of, what do you think maybe on the defensive side we might be seeing on Coastline to advantage or disadvantage these teams?
So common bans that I'd normally expect to see come out would be a mirror. I've never been, to be honest, I've never been a big fan of Mirror on Coastline myself, but a lot of people do hold a lot of faith in her on Coastline, and she is a very common ban, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Valkyrie ban, because obviously the intel is huge. There's so many outdoor camera spots that you can use. That means a Valkyrie ban is going to be very strong. But also, equally, I think a Vigil ban could be very useful to evade that droning detection. So those are probably my 3 picks for this map, I think. I know we can only have 2, but I'm going to pick 3 and try to hedge my bets a little bit.
Nice. Well, I'll leave you guys for now. See you later. Okay. Right on in.
All right. Have a great time. Now we're jumping back into the bans, and we will see whether the first ban is going to be an ace. And this makes a lot of sense. You think about your quad wall. It's very easy to get a couple of them on the quad wall. You don't really need to worry about harm breach so much on a map like Coastline. So you think about the ace and that quad wall. A lot of teams will probably just not bother with it. They'll just say, okay, we'll bring a Lion, or we'll bring a Dockerby, or we'll bring someone who can really shut down a lot of the utility. Carnivora, they're going to be banning out that Thatcher. They're going to be making sure that that operator doesn't have that much of an impact. I mean, think about it, Toot, okay? You look at a Thatcher, and a lot of teams, they're very coordinated, so it will disable a lot of gadgets, but a coordinated team will just have everything speed up. They'll be ready to deal with it. A lot of strats don't even rely on Thatcher for a lot of teams because he's constantly banned. So when he is on the board, then it just speeds everything up. That mirror will be taken away, so I know you're not a fan of her. You don't have to worry.
No, I love Mirror. I think she's great. I just never see her being used that effectively on Coastline, if I'm honest. I think it's mainly Penthouse, for example, where people use her, and a lot of people don't play Penthouse. So yeah. But Valkyrie, also no big surprise. So 2 of my 3 were picked, which is good to can save some face there on that one.
it's hard to see all 3 picked, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, one day maybe it will happen. Maybe if there's a special event or something, maybe we will see it.
Now,
but yeah.
I'd like to take this opportunity to point out, for those who may be interested in the rescheduled game between... actually, no, not the rescheduled. the game between Proximity and Machine Soldiers Academy. Well, that's currently 1-0 to Proximity, a 7-3 on Chalet. That is game C, I believe. I'll just quickly double check, but the winner of that game is going to play the winner of this game, which is actually quite fun. It's quite nice, and it all ties together in a very beautiful way. We are going to be seeing this coastline. I'm looking forward to it. We're looking at a very attacker lineup that is very comfortable, but bar and we're going to go to double bar first, aren't we? We have the Pangu position, no Thatch to actually clear it out. So what are your thoughts on this setup? What do you think the game is for Kjell's here?
So, we're seeing Kjell's start out defense both sides, and both sides they're picking a more tertiary bomb site rather than primary bomb sites to go to first. It didn't work out that well for them the last time, though, did it, McCready, really? Obviously, they won it when they went there the first time, but as a setup for the rest of the map, it didn't work too well. But let's see if they can make something happen here. We've got the standard Pengu setup, as you called out, with the ADSs, the smoke shotgun right behind it, with that shield. So, very standard setup, standard rotates in between the sites. I'm assuming we've got the holes opened up into courtyard. Yes, we do. So nothing unusual here that the attackers are going to have to work their way through. They've got the attackers that they need. They've got the soft destruction so that they can do some damage from up above. And it looks like that's what they're going to start out on, which does make perfect sense. You need to start... Oh, no! Was that an attempt at a spawn peek or something there? But two early picks coming out from Carnivora as they managed to take down Ruby and Sides, the two players that are actually responsible for stopping any frag grenades or chuckables from coming into sight. And there is a lot of that on the board for the attack. We've got 4 frag grenades in the hands of Iana and Sledge. We've got the lifelines, we've got Habana, and we've got the breaching rounds. All of that utility. Apart from Jaeger's ADSs, though, once they're taken down, they'll come back up after 10 seconds, obviously. But Ruby didn't need to die that early. That's a lot of utility gone now for the defensive side. And that could hurt a lot, with the only real impact being maybe a little bit of intel coming out from Mozzie. But the smoke with those gas grenades is going to be the key bit of utility left for the defenders now that those other 2 operators are gone. So let's see how this is going to play out. As the attackers do start to do their work up above. Sledge is going to open up all the standard holes, make sure that the defenders are pushed out of that blue bar, and it looks like we are likely to get a blue bar take here rather than a sunrise take, which is a little bit more unusual. Normally I'd expect a sunrise take. Oh, but Zemo though just runs outside, gets that pick onto Typical as he tries to run back upstairs, and the score is evened out at 3-3 now, making things a little bit more balanced with 1 minute left to go on the clock. Hibana still holding on to that diffuser, and they might need to think about where they are going to plant. They possibly don't want to go for a blue bar. At this moment, it looks like there's only one person really denying the sunrise take, and that's where they should probably focus their efforts on, as Mozzie does take down one more with the Roni. Never mind, takes down another one, leaving Hibana all on her own, running out into the courtyard, and she does manage to get one pick as we now go into a 1 versus 2.
Yes, now Zemo waiting with this shotgun, as is Bobby Boy with the SMG-11 right now. Carnivora, they had a really good opportunity to try and plant on that blue bar. They could have got above, they could have opened up that wall, they took the utility off, they could have gone for a plant and hold the top floor. Those early frags really gave them a lot of opportunities, but it just got picked away. They stalled out. They probably weren't ready for what they needed to do. And then you're just seeing just refrags coming out. We saw kills. They weren't deterred. They were saying, okay, well, we can do something about this. We can find a couple of kills. We can take them out and get the advantage back. You find those kills, you're suddenly in a 3 versus 3. You're in a 3 versus 2, and well, yeah, you gotta say, you know, when you're sat outside with very low time and all a 3 versus 3, 3 versus 2, well, what are you going to do? You haven't got the breaches open, you haven't got a plant down, you haven't really dealt with a lot of these late round power players, like Ella with a fully automatic shotgun, Smoke with the smoke canisters. I mean, you could find a refrag, but at that point the round was over as soon as we saw Kjells really start to take control again. Going out the kitchen, this is where we're going to probably see a roam game really come in. I feel like Carnivora, they might be expecting it to be hookah. So they might be bringing a lineup designed around that, like they might have done last round. Kitchen, service. A lot of the name of the game here for an typical attacking setup is vertical play, vertical play, vertical play. You flush out that position with the deployable shield at the bottom right of your screen. You get eyes onto the doorway of that bathroom, make sure the bathroom's clear as well. Suddenly you can start going down for a plant if you have somebody putting pressure on kitchen window, or over towards courtyard. Kjell's, if their defensive playstyle on the last 2 maps is going to tell me anything, is they're going to stop that happening at any cost.
Yeah, I'd like to see a big upstairs hold coming out from the Disciples on this one. It looks like they're extending all the way over into Office and Sunrise there with a reinforcement. That's an interesting placement. So we are going to have a player just holding here in blue bar, holding off-site. Well, he is actually going to start to make his way back, never mind. But they do have the setup there to be able to hold in blue bar with the real extended hold. I would like to see a fair bit of play up above. The kind of thing I'd expect to see, holes in penthouse floor, for example, looking down through to the service entrance from right by the penthouse window is a nice hold to have, although you are very exposed to that double window. Also, other holds are obviously in VIP, where you can look nice and cleanly right down onto that kitchen window or to the kitchen doorway. There's just plenty of stuff that you can do from up above, but it looks like there isn't really much of a defensive hold upstairs. Instead, we've got the Disciples doubling down with 2 players over here in Sunrise, one in service entrance, and not 100% sure where the other 2 are, but this is a big off-site gain coming out, but not quite in the way I would expect it to. And the attackers are just being given free roam upstairs. You can see they're just running around without a care in the world, just doing all the destruction they need, and that will push those defenders out of position. I'm interested to see that hatch get opened with an X-Kairos instead of the sledge that literally just ran out past Ibana. Interesting choice of utility use, but if it works for you, it works. As we do see Envy take that first frag, and that is Jaeger yet again being the first player to die here on this defense. It didn't hurt the defensive side too much the last time. Let's see if it's going to hold back the defense this time round, and if the attackers will be able to do what they need to do. But as they play here in Penthouse, the key job is for Sledge to open up loads of holes, push the defensive players out of position, and it's likely that we will see a take in, likely through the service entrance. If not, then it's going to be kitchen window is my next guess. But I suspect with all the work being done in Penthouse that they are opening up for a service take to make sure there's no one in bathroom trying to deny the push once this player here has been taken out of play, and that is Ruby, who we have seen overpeak before, but he isn't going to do it just yet. He does just manage to clock onto the player on the left-hand side. Sammy had a free kill there almost, but Ruby just had a sixth sense, managed to flick his SMG-11 onto the head of the player out there. He does manage to get the second, and that is Hibana taken out of play, leaving us in a 3 versus 2 as Gez does manage to pick one up as Sledge upstairs on that top floor. But we are in a 3 versus 2 still. Diffuser has been dropped outside service entrance with 15 seconds to go. Envy has side control in kitchen but no diffuser, so he can't do anything with it. He is the last man standing. He's going to have to play for kills here rather than plant, but with a very good setup there with Ruby getting that third kill laid down in service entrance, predicting perfectly where that player is going to come through. Even if he hadn't have got that frag, the player coming through the toilets from the other side would likely have got it. Either way, that was all over there for the defense, and we are seeing a much better showing here from Kjell's Disciples than we saw in the first map Clubhouse.
Yeah, they're keeping their playstyle. They're playing it aggressively. They're saying, okay, well, we're losing a couple of gunfights, but what we can do is we can bring them back. We can go for some kills. We can shut them down when they're actually stalling out, because quite a few times Carnivora, they get the opening advantage. They're doing that vertical play. They've got all the pieces in play, but they're just faltering once they get to the next step. It feels like, okay, they know A, B, C, and D, and they've got to B. Right? They've already entered. They've started doing their vertical play, which is the B step, but then positioning for a push, that B to C, they're not really sure what to do with it. I mean, obviously, the execute C to D, that makes a lot of sense, but they're starting to stall out. They're not really comfortable. They're really giving Kjell's the opportunity, a lot of freedom to move around time-wise, because Carnivora just don't have that aggression to match. That's something that Coastline is famed for. If you're able to catch a team in the middle of kind of trying to work out what to do, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to win that round. Kjell's, they're getting a lot of advantages by doing this. I feel a retake of that top floor, even if we saw Envy picking up both kills on site, a player on top floor, you shut it all down. Simply put, Kjell's, they're playing it much better. Can they keep doing it once they go into their attack? Probably. But can they do it onto Villa? Villa is a lot more like Clubhouse than Coastline, in my opinion, so I want to see Carnivora being able to just hold out long enough, keep that mentality. Right now, they've won these opening gunfights both rounds. Can they do it again? Not with Svebo going to play a little bit safe.
No, Svebo, they're choosing to play the Vigil instead of the Jaeger this time round. Interesting choice. Don't know if that's just because they felt they didn't need the utility, or maybe Svebo was just getting caught with his pants down a little bit too much early on in the game and decided that they wanted to avoid those drones and make sure that he could live a little bit longer this time, but still taking a whole load of damage there at the very start of the round. It's not shaping up good for the Disciples at this point, but he isn't dead. He's not out yet. And a key part of the roam game is wasting time just as much as getting kills, so it's not a huge issue right now. But if it comes down to the dying seconds, then it could become a problem where they are losing health so early on in this matchup. Now, as we saw previously, we are getting a lot of work being done upstairs here with players just running around with complete free roam in through that side of the building, as we see 3 of them stacking up and starting to take control of White Stairs as they start to funnel their way through to site. We've got the diffuser being held by the player on Hibana. I'm still not going to try and say that. How do we say that name, McCready?
Shingi.
Shingi?
I think we've said Shingi.
Silent D sounds about right. Yeah.
Habana's fine as well. Shingi.
Yeah, I'll go with Shingi.
Chat will yell at us if we're wrong. Don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But the big thing for me is Carnivora. They're trying to play a very aggressive game and bring in aggressive operators for that. Normally that's not bad, but a lot of times you're falling down to roamers. You're falling down to players catching you off guard. A Nomad ban might circumvent that if you bring that operator, but Sammy and Svebo, they're each going to pick up a frag. Guess is going to look for a refrag, but nothing's there. A minute ticking down on the clock. Carnivora, they need to get aggressive. Envy's going to be able to find 1 kill. Ruby with the refrag. It's back and forth, a symphony of shots, as Jerry the Music Man would like to hear me say. Guess is going to get taken out. Shingi, the last player left with 1 gun. And, most importantly, 40 seconds on the clock. The smoke canisters come out. You can rotate, but do you really have the time? The smoke canisters are gone. You have a sightline. You're going to go for a kill. You do a bit of damage, but you just don't find it. Time's ticking down. You've got to go for a push. You can't sit in that luggage area for the entire round. This is where we're seeing Kjell start to play a bit more defensive. They realize they don't need to overpeak. That's an adaptation they've had to make since the past map. And Shingi, you're about to see exactly why they hold the angles and Kjell's pick up another round.
Yeah, at the end there, we can see all 3 of them holding very perfectly back on site, just waiting patiently. They know that Hibana can't really do much against 3 of them. She can't take on a 1v3 gunfight. Someone's going to get her, even if she manages to take down 1 or 2 of them. We could see they were holding every possible position that she was likely to come from. They had it locked up, and they managed to take it. So great round there from the Disciples as they take their 3rd in a row. The first time that they've actually won... This is the first time they won more than 1 round in a row, right? From the last map. So maybe this is the map that we need to see the Disciples playing on. The question is, are we? No, we're not. I thought we were going to get the Kjell stuck with there, but we are going to see Jaeger coming out instead. That would have been great. Right. Kjell, I do love a good Kjell play, but when you're playing organized teams such as this, Kjell's ability depends very much on picking off those solo players. Yeah. Unless you're Eunice in the Invitationals, the chances of you managing to take down more than 1 player as a Kjell in this are very, very slim. So it's not a surprise to see her get 6 picked, but I would love to have seen it. But yeah, like I say, these teams too coordinated for Kjell to really pay off. So it makes total sense to see that operator get switched out. Interesting to see the Alibi come into play. Now, I'm known for loving Alibi. She's my favorite defensive operator. People think I'm crazy when I say it, but she is very, very effective. Her gun is so easy to use and control. You've got the choice of a shield or impact grenades depending on how you want to play her. And then her utility, although not the best, very useful for catching unawares attackers. Now, these days, no one really falls for it. No one sees the Alibi and says, oh, there's Alibi, shoot her in the face. It doesn't really happen, but she's great for gathering that intel and making attackers just fall back for those 4 or 5 seconds that they're getting pinged when they shoot her through a window or something like that. So Alibi can be the great play. She's got the Bailiff there to allow rotations and hatch openings as well. So I'm pleased to see her coming out. I'd like to see what Svebo is going to do with Alibi, because he hasn't done a great deal with Jaeger or Vigil so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to play, as we are going to see Zemo, instead of playing Smoke, going to be playing that FO12 shotgun on Ella up close here on the Pengu spot, with an extended hold over here into Kitchen as well, similar to what we've seen in previous rounds. Very extended holds coming out from the Disciples here on all of these sites that they're playing. And it is working out for them tremendously well so far. Enough to the point where Guess has decided, you know what, I'm just going to start playing Blackbeard. If I'm not going to get kills, I'm going to play Blackbeard.
Yeah, because look at this. You have a lot more comfortability when it comes to this vertical play. Peeking the luggage angle, you have a lot more safety. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, ooh, yikes. I don't think you're crazy with this Alibi choice, because look at it on the bar. That's a common pre-fire spot, and, well, actually, if you get people pre-firing that, you're going to give away the position. Like you said, it's going to back them off. And Ella with an FO12 fully auto shotgun can have a great time. Svebo is going to show off the other reason that the Alibi is a very, very strong pick. It's going to be that MX4 Storm, but typical on the flank watch is going to be able to find that kill. Big problem, though. Vertical play and the flank will be coming through from Bobby Boy, and, well, Typical doesn't really have a clue exactly what happened. The C4 is not in pocket anymore. Scythe is the only player to have one left and will rotate around. Right now, Carnivora, they're going to be able to do some vertical play, but is it going to have an impact? I'm not really sure. Bobby Boy wants to get aggressive. They know someone's on the office door. They know that somebody's there. Sammy's not gonna look the right way. Oh no! A player's there for the refrag. Will be able to get it. Typical gets one of their own. A 2 versus 3. But we've seen Kjell here before. They've won out a 3 versus 3 before on this very, very site with these very operators. And Envy, you're gonna start opening this blue door. You don't have the office wall. You can't open it up realistically. You have a mute jammer there waiting. And this time you are going to take it away, but you've got to think, what happens afterwards? You can just rotate around if you're Ruby. That's why Carnivora have got a player in main lobby. They're looking. Ruby is going to be caught off guard. It's all going to be down to Zemo with the FO12 Origin shotgun. And 18 seconds to stop this plant from going down. You don't need to find 3 kills. You just need to find 1. But you won't even get that. Envy's going to find Zemo and give Carnivora their first attacking round off the back of a very close attacking side. That could have gone either way until we saw Envy being picked off.
Yeah, it was a good start from the defense. We saw the players' health just getting whittled away. There's some good teamwork at the start there, where we saw, as you called out, the vertical kill from the player down below, just taking out the player upstairs. I think it was the sledge that got taken out of action, I think, if I remember rightly. Blackbeard, sorry, yes, Blackbeard. So the best way to shoot a Blackbeard, shoot him from underneath where he doesn't have a shield. So yeah, makes perfect sense. So Blackbeard taken out from below with some great teamwork there from the defensive side. But after that, it sort of fell apart from them as each of their players started having their health whittled away. We saw a great pick from Mozzie, who just was unknown to be sitting to the hard left of that doorway into office as Ash came belting in through that Grismot mine. Affected Mozzie, but not enough to deny him the kill. Managed to get it, but we saw the other player there for that refrag as he started to run. So some great teamwork coming out there from the attackers as well. But that was just the spiraling on a downward trajectory for the Kjell's Disciples on defense as their health started to whittle away, but they managed to hold on to it at the very end there, again just turning the tables and leaving the attackers in a 1 versus 2 or 3, where they didn't manage to be successful.
Kitchen service now. And we've already seen Kjell's win this once out. It was because Carnivora stalled out on the top. Do you think there's any key changes that we're going to see from Carnivora? Because they have an IQ and not a sledge. How do you think that's going to impact the playstyle? That's what I want to know, because we haven't casted together. I don't really know what goes through your mind when you look at setups, and I kind of do. What do you think?
So with Sledge being out of play, they've obviously adapted for that by bringing the breaching charges here on Sammy and IQ. Now, Sammy before on the last map was actually bringing claymores as Ash rather than the breaching charges. This time they've compensated for that. They've given Sammy 3 breaching charges, so we've got 6 bits of utility that can be used to open up holes from above. We've got 3 breaching charges in the hands of IQ, so there can still be plenty of vertical destruction here coming out from the attackers. It's not as much as Sledge, but to be fair, you probably don't need to open up every single bit of floor. So the 6 breaching charges and the 3 breaching rounds might well be enough to get the vertical plays coming out here. Just open up a couple of holes, drop some grenades through those holes in the hands of Yana, and that could be all that you need. But Legion is going to get taken out of play very early, which is unfortunate. Legion isn't typically known as a roamer. You kind of want to play him a little bit closer to sight. To see him get taken out so early is a little bit of a shock. His utility builds up over time, obviously, which means the longer he's in play, the stronger he becomes. So to lose him so early on is a big loss, especially now that we've lost Echo as well. How you lose Echo so quickly, followed by 2 other players, leaving you in a 1 versus 5, and you're not even halfway into the round yet. I don't know what the Disciples have done here. And Zemo just isn't going to be able to do anything. I mean, he could have taken down that 1 player, but there's still 2 more at that doorway that were just going to come in and get that refrag. So not the best round there from the boys and girls on the Disciples, but Carnivora just finding their swing. And I think this is more how I expected the last map to go, to be honest with you. A slow start from Carnivora and then start to warm up. And this is what we're seeing this time round. We've had the slow start, and now they're starting to warm up after those first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I feel a really good part of Carnivora in the last couple of rounds is their roam clearance has been really good. They haven't listened to me and brought a Jackal or a Nomad, but they've just been dealing with it with frags, dealing with it with actual kills, actual map control. They've dealt with it in a different way to the way I'd go about it, and, well, clearly, there's more than one way to do it because this one works, as well as those Nomads. Big thing I want to point out is that Svebo was the first kill in that last round, and you talked about the operator, but I'm talking about the player being taken away. Svebo's been one of these very round-defining players in this team of Kjells, and when he hasn't really stepped up, he hasn't really found a couple of kills in that round, that's where Carnivora picked up. Think about that last round. Think about the round before that. Svebo wasn't really having much of an impact at that point. Still though, Kjells, no matter what happens here, that at least a 3-3 split is secured, so you're going into your attack, a very aggressive side that you're going to want to have. I feel like Kjells are in a good position to win out this map so far. Carnivora, they're going to have to step up in a massive way and recreate a lot of magic in this round. I feel like they need these early kills. They need to be able to get the map control again, maybe find Svebo on that flank yet again. I don't think Kjells are really changing that much. On the side of Carnivora, they're bringing the sledge back. They're saying, okay, we were lucky with that round, but we need that vertical play. The round will kick off, and we'll look at Kjells just playing it quite comfortably. They're not getting overly aggressive, maybe just bringing a couple of windows, saying, okay, we are here, you do need to deal with us. Carnivora's droning it out. They will be able to spot out Svebo and security, and they now know they need to roam clear at that position. If you take control of service, well, you can just get flanked from security. Rest of joining will find at player in Sunrise, a player in, Kitchen. That's Zemo taken off the board. 1 kill for Zemo on the board, and at least for 1 round, it's going to stay that way. Guess is going to push forward, gets that goo mine, Sammy in support will be droning. The Ash, droning? Okay, well, that's interesting. Svebo is going to be able to find that kill, and Sammy will be pushed onto that entry fragger roll. Bobby Boy gets another frag. Sammy not really going to push forward now. You're going to say, right, how do I get to my team? How do I help out my team from here? Because I could push this Legion, but I will probably die. Sammy, going to deal with this, rotates around for blue. Suddenly that Sunrise player in a very awkward spot. As long as Cool Vibes doesn't drop down. Sammy's holding this angle, knows there's probably a player in Sunrise. We've drawn them out, we've checked them, we know that they are there. But are they going to peek? Are they going to break? No, because your players aren't applying that pressure. Instead, Carnivora have decided vertical play, that's what we've been lacking, that's what we need.
Yeah, so as the Disciples here, they've taken control of this round completely, leaving us in a 4 versus 3 with some key utility taken out the board. All of the frags are gone. The soft destruction is almost all gone, barring the Ash and Zofia that's left on the board, who can do the soft destruction, but it's not from above quite as quickly and efficiently as Sledge is going to be able to do it, that's for sure. But still, they do have that opportunity to do some damage from upstairs. We are going to see Shingi on the Hibana trying to burn those ADSs. Those are successfully gone. We could be seeing, well, we are very likely seeing here a setup for a take into Kitchen through that window. But Shingi is actually going to back out and not go for it, as that gas grenade does get spent. So that leaves just 1 more in the back pocket of smoke, as that gas grenade is baited out as Shingi rotates round to the Sunrise bar, but Sammy is going to fall, as is Envy, leaving Shingi all on his own, who hasn't just gone round to Sunrise, he's gone all the way round. No, actually, sorry, he has gone to Sunrise. He's going to peek out. He's going to manage to get one pick, but Svebo knows exactly where he is thanks to the gunfire. But Shingi just is better at that moment. He does manage to get that pick. Now we've got Size playing upstairs, waiting. He'll be able to get some picks through the floor if necessary, but it looked like he just... No, he is still upstairs, leaving Ruby. Where is Ruby? Can't even see where Ruby is. Diffuser is inside. Oh, there's Ruby back in the corner. Now he's complete side control, and he's going to have to start planting, leaving sides to push in to try to deny it. He doesn't know exactly where it is, but it's going to be in a pretty default spot. And instead of sticking the plant, the attacker is going to come off it, and that's going to allow the Disciples to get that win, saving the KD there at the end of the round.
That was a rough one. I feel like we could have maybe just seen Envy actually get that plant down, but that's not going to be the case. We are going to be heading into the defensive round for Carnivora, and the attacking round for Kjells on a 4-2 split in favor of the attack. Now, this is what we really need to see from Kjells. We need to see a different attacking side to what we saw before. We need to see them really step up with the aggression. They can do it. They can win the gunfights. They've been feeling a lot more comfortable in this map. They need to keep it going, though. Envy and Shingi have been real pains in the side. If you can find Envy, I can see Kjells really starting to take this momentum and snowball with it, finding kills, finding frags, finding rounds, and pushing us all the way over to Villa. Is that going to happen? Maybe, maybe not. Right now, Carnivora, they have a defensive side. They have the opportunity to bring it back. They're on Hookah Billiards. I mean, it's the primary site for a reason. This site, it allows you to not only have vertical presence, you can go down below and stop a plant if you want, but it allows the Hookah to be a very powerful position for the shotgun, for the smoke. It allows that billiards area to really become just a shooting ground. And if you have verticality prepped on default, or billiards, or even in Hookah, like I said, well, then you can deny a plant from just down below. You force attackers to rotate down. But on the flip side, an aggressive Kjells can really take this momentum, take this control, and catch Carnivora off guard, I think.
Yeah, so we're going to see the Alibi come into play. Even though we switched sides, Alibi is going to make her way over onto the Carnivora side, and we can see her opening up the holes on that default plant there in Hookahs, which suggests to me that we're likely to see, if not Alibi, at least one player anyway, from Carnivora holding downstairs, or trying to hold downstairs to stop a default plant. But of course, the smart team of Disciples are going to just clear down that ground floor first to make sure that there's no one there able to do that, or no one that can at least drop down.
What?
Hello? What was that? Was that a banned skin? I mean, that was deliberate, right?
I mean, I imagine it would be based on the shot. Yeah, no, that's a skin. Zima's left, and
possibly.
It might be a sound glitch, it might be a skin. Either way, Zima's going to disconnect. Kjell's immediately in a 4 versus 5, but they're not really uncomfortable by it. They're ready to keep going. Bobby Boy is able to find a frag onto Guess and even things out. 2 minutes off the clock, and that vertical pressure, it's already in control of Kjells. The Scyther's got to be looking for another kill to add on, but Sammy, incredible at picking up opportunities, and that Sophia's head is certainly one of them. Ruby realizing, well, I have an MT49, I have a lot of ammo. I have a lot of bullets in this magazine, about 100, I think. I can get aggressive, but that hatch is open. That player's kitchen. There's probably a player Cool Vibes. You cannot discount that, so you've got to choose where are you going to go. That alibi scan is going to give away your position. Svebo's going to try and add on to it. Typical. Oh, I like this. The defenders, they're down on the bottom floor, ready to try and deal with these pushes, but Bobby and Svebo, they take it into their own hands. They're able to find kill after kill, and Shingi, the last player left on the top floor. You have players looking for the rotate. You have to find 3 kills. You have to stop them from getting a goddamn plant. This is going to be quite difficult because as soon as Kjells know where you are, they're going to push. They're going to get aggressive. This is a roster that you need to be able to isolate one-on-one gunfights, but are they going to let you? Hookah's side take is going to be on the cards, and they have a minute to drone, a minute to check everything. They will find that position of Chingy, and right now you're just looking at 2 attackers waiting on Cool Vibes. Ruby's distracting them. Ruby is waiting and holding the angle. The asphyxiation bolts of the smoke will come through, but Shingi's able to find that frag. It's all down to Bobby and Svebo to rotate around and go for the pinch. But Shingi's in such a good position. It's not going to matter, though. Svebo walks in and finds the kill. Kjells take their first attacking round and put themselves in an even better position. And Svebo showing that he doesn't really like art. But, well, what can you do?
It was interesting there to see a 3 versus 1 and the attackers just being so cautious, not just rushing, just taking the time to use the intel available to them. They had drones, they sent them out to try and find out exactly where Alibi was to make sure they could make that play. They found out where she was. Capital, unfortunately, just got caught out as he switched his bolts and exposed himself for just a moment in a position where he couldn't really shoot back, allowing Alibi that free kill. But then with the remaining time, we saw the last two attackers just start to converge on her position to make sure they could shut her down effectively. And they did it very, very well. The MX Storm, as great as that gun can be, when you're in a 3 versus 1 like that, it's not really got the ammo or the punch to do enough damage to comfortably win it. She had more of a chance once she took out that Capital, but they just managed to isolate her enough and push in and get that free kill as the last player just walked through that doorway, saw Alibi and said, hello, shot her, and took the round. So well played there to attack the Kjell's Disciples, now going 5-2 up and looking very, very good right now. Very, very good to take the win. We've got Envy, has been doing a lot of good work for his team in this one. With the 9 kills, doing very, very well for Carnivora when it comes to the fragging, holding the team together. The rest of the players look like they need to just pick up a little bit. Shingy close to him, but the rest of the players not quite getting the frags that they would need to. And when we look at the other side as well for the Disciples, we can see that actually Bobby Boy and Svebo are doing brilliant work when it comes to kills. It's not all about kills, but these guys are putting in the work and can help explain why they've gotten 5-2 up as we now go into round number 8.
Yes, and about 30 seconds in, we're already feeling some pressure towards that kitchen side, but I want to just remind you of one little thing. Kjell's Timo is going to bring that heart breach and isn't going to have to die at the very start because whatever the issue was, well, surely it's fixed now. Envy also has really struggled with kills in the last couple of rounds. Last time I pointed out Envy and Shingy, well, only 1 kill has gone between the two of them. The Jackal will be brought to deal with this roam play, and this makes a lot of sense because Kjells are an aggressive side. A team that are very aggressive with their roam clear, like Kjells, they can really capitalize upon live information against that Jackal. Yes, is looking down below, realizing somebody's gonna make their entrance through Sunrise Bar. The rest of Carnivora, they're holding positions where they might not actually know where this push is coming. They're very uncomfortable. They're waiting. And Kjells definitely feel like they have a lot of advantages at this moment. What I feel like we need to see is maybe Carnivora getting a little bit more spring in their step. Maybe try and take a gunfight when you know that somebody is looking at someone. Maybe go for a double peek. Maybe try get somebody in the back. Envy and, well, Sammy, they haven't really had much impact on this roam at the moment. And while vertical play is taking place, we're really not seeing Carnivore apply any pressure to the attackers. They're just doing this heart breach. They're getting these roam clears, this free information. They're positioning themselves without a single problem right now.
Yeah, so we are still in a 5 versus 5 somehow with only 1 minute left on the round. We've got a lot of drones left in play. We've got 6 that the attackers can use to get all the intel they need before they start to make the strike. Now we have Scythes down below playing as Zephyr, and I'd be surprised to see him do much more than stay down below. He's going to be responsible for making sure that if a plant does go down, that it's not going to be able to get disabled by holding that position from underneath. But at the same time, he's also there to make sure that no one rotates downstairs from the defense to stop that plant from going down. Now we've got Smoke with 1 HP and a Dream and 1 gas grenade left as that plant is going down in not quite the default spot, but it is going to get denied with a gun, not from a C4 from down below, but with a player just laid down here in the corner, just getting picks as they push in to try for that plant, but it's not successful. Bobby Boy is left all on his own in a 1 versus 3. He manages to get 1, but Envy still laid there in that position, does manage to get the kill. I don't know if that's due to poor information sharing from his teammates, not saying, hey, there's a guy laid down there, watch out when you walk in, or if it was just a case they didn't really realize where he was when they died, or they just thought he would have moved position and it wasn't worth calling out. I don't know, but that was 3 kills that Jaeger should not have had, just laid there by that doorway, that's for sure.
No, but it's something that Carnivore desperately needed. With that round, they're able to stave off that match point, something Kjells were able to do in a similar situation in the last map. But Carnivore, is this the little bite that they need? Well, they're going to head down the kitchen. They've been to Hookah Billiards twice. they're going to head down to kitchen now and see what they have in store. The Pogmats will be brought through, but Kjells are going to do what I've said since the start, really. They're going to look towards a Nomad ban, and I feel like this is going to be very impactful. You get your vertical play, and then, like I said, the staircases, Cool Vibes and White, they are both going to have air jabs on them, simply put. Any roamers from Carnivora are going to have a very difficult time applying that pressure and sneaking up silently. They're going to need to wait until a gunfight's taking place or some noise is being made if they want to shoot the air jabs, and they need to deal with flank cameras. Ultimately, Kjells, they're looking very good right now. I feel like they can close this down with these air jabs. They're giving themselves a lot more comfort so that they can play this vertical, get these kills, and have that post plant on the board. Right now, with the setup that they've got, a Capitao, a Nomad, it's going to be a vertical take. It's going to be a service take. You have a couple of ADSs to burn, but there's no Wamai. Capitao bots don't get picked up by those ADSs, and suddenly the position you can see Shingi trying to create with this deployable shield, that's not going to matter. You just flame it out, and you can walk in.
Yeah, the Capitao is going to play a very strong role here, as is the Nomad, like you say. Some well-placed air jabs as you push into service entrance can make all of the difference. Get one on the rotate behind the shield once you push the player out. Even if you don't push the player out with Capitao, you can just pop an air jab up there once you burn the ADSs. And, you know, that player behind the shield is just going to get knocked on his butt, and it's a free pick as you start to move in. Now, it's not going to be as easy as that. There's still a lot more work to be done than just that quick bit of utility use that I suggested, and we probably won't even see that happen at all, to be fair, but it is an option that's available. Instead, we are going to get a push here onto the top floor and an attempt at moving the anchors out position from above, as you talked about quite rightly. We've got Sledge, we've got Ash, we've got the vertical destruction that we need, we've got the air jabs to stop those roams up at those staircases, the air jabs to stop those roams up the staircases, which is going to allow the attackers to do whatever they want upstairs completely uncontested. There's there's 2 C4s available to the defenders, one of which has already been spent, and the other one, it could be used to deny this, or deny some of this push from up above, but you need a lot of intel to make it work, and there isn't really a load of intel upstairs. You've just got to hope that you can find the pick, as Bobby Boy does take down Shingi, taking Frost off the board. I do love to see a Frost in play. She's become a lot more popular lately since she had a shotgun given to her. I liked her before that even, but with a shotgun now, she's become such a much viable operator that these teams like to bring into a competitive setting. It's really nice to see her get played, and the utility is one of those ones where it's always the guy that calls out the frost mat that falls into it first, most likely. You just forget about it as you get to those last 30 seconds. You see a hole, you think, I need to make a play. You jump through the hole. Oh, no, there's a big bear trap right here, and that takes you out of action. So it is a good play to bring Frost in these settings, but you probably only want to bring up once or twice at most, as we now see Disciples firmly in the driving seat as we are in a 4 versus 2. We've just got Typical and Sammy left on their own. Well, I say that, we've got Sammy left all on his own, just trying to hold down the kitchen site as he gets a flurry of bullets thrown at him from the side, from above, and it looked like it was the player up above that did get the kill. Yes, it was just up there through those holes opened up earlier on. There's the control that you need from above to completely shut down that movement throughout the sites for the defenders. And if they do move, then it just puts you into your crosshairs and allows you to get that pick and win the round, as we just saw there.
Yes, and Kjells, while doing this, will put themselves on match point. Oh, they're looking for the same scoreline we saw last time, and they definitely want to go towards Villa. Now, Kjells, their aggressive playstyle, it's really worked out for them. It hasn't deterred on the attack. They've won 2 out of the 3 rounds they've had on attack so far, and that means, well, they're comfortable with aggression. They're comfortable with opening picks. The executes, they're fine. Like I said, Toot, when it comes to that 3rd map, I feel like the team that wins Coastline will win it out, because Villa, no matter how well you can defend it, now we know Carnivora have a good strategic mindset, but no matter how well you defend it, you've really got to add up. You've really got to shape up to a good attacking side, which I feel like Kjells, they're starting to prove that they are. I mean, Carnivora, yes, they have been able to do the same on their attack on Clubhouse, but I feel like Kjells are going to be a lot more naturally better at it, if that makes sense, because they rely on those mechanics. They rely on finding these opening picks, and they can do so very, very easily. Kjells' attack hasn't really stalled out at all. I feel like the biggest issue was a little bit of unknown information of Envy playing in that little corner. But in the possible last round of this second map. We're going to be heading to double bar, and Carnivora at this point, they've won out Hookah, so they know that they can't go there again, realistically. They can't go there right now. They don't want to go to Kitchen Service, they've just lost it. If they win this round, they get back up to Hookah. That means they actually have an opportunity to bring something back, and then they go into 5-6, which you can actually go to overtime on. I mean, as long as you win this round, I can see this going to overtime. But Kjell's, it's going to be very difficult for them to really lose this. They know where a couple of these players are. They're immediately trying to shut down the freedom of movement. And Envy up above, if Envy and Shingy get taken away, then this round's just not going to work out for them. As Kjell's, they start their entry, they start their drone work, they're fragging, but Zemo isn't going to be able to do the latter, and the Nomad taken away before the hedge-ups can really go down. That means Typical is going to have a very impactful kill. Shingy takes some damage, tries to get aggressive on the window for some reason, and Sights is able to find that player. Svebo will be taken away in a refrag, and Carnivora, player-wise, are looking stronger. When it comes to actual momentum, though, Kjells, they can still execute. We've seen them a couple of players down before, but we've seen them win. And most importantly, Carnivora, some of their rumors are a little bit indisposed with holding a Hall of Fame angle, as you might be looking towards Envy. Rest of Kjell, so they're looking to push. They're looking to get inside. Guess takes some damage from that window, but tries to get a Garrison peek. Don't peek. Wait until you have the audio information. You've got to C4. Just hold with it, honestly. Half the round ticket down, and Kjells, they just need to think about where they want to execute. They need to aim true.
Yeah, we're seeing the vertical pressure being applied. That forces Sides to turn his head away. Sorry, Guess to turn his head away, which allows Sides to get that pick from the blue window, leaving Envy over there in the office, watching blue bar from that side with another player there just at the rotate between the two sites. That's going to be typical, just holding on to that window in case anyone tries to jump in. But the player out there isn't going to make that mistake. They are going to play it a little bit more sensibly and just try to get these picks from a distance before moving in. They've got plenty of time. The attackers have got all the time that they need. They've got a minute. They've got 7 drones available to them to get the intel that they want. We are going to have Zofia just sitting outside the window. It looks like she's going to rotate between the two as drones go out to find out where at least one of these players is. We've got Envy way off site back here, who could actually be the trump card that Carnivora are going to need if we do get an aggressive push. And let's be fair, we've got 3 very aggressive attacking operators left on this board that can just brute force their way into sight. And if they don't shut down Envy before they do that, Envy could be the one that manages to stop everything. But we do also have Sammy playing over on Kitchen, meaning Typical is all on his own, trying to hold down the site. Now, it looks like Envy has been spotted as he does take some damage from the blue bar, but Typical is going to get 1 pick with the SMG-11, leaving us in a 2 versus 3, but the plant is going down in blue bar in a very typical spot. It does get denied by Sammy, leaving Sides in a 1 versus 3, and it looks like this should be a round for the defenders as the plant does not get to go down with such a small amount of time left on the clock. So a good hold there from the defense, managing to keep back those attackers. The attackers were playing it fairly correctly, but they just ran out of time and just didn't manage to brute force their way in as I thought that they would be able to. So a great hold there from the defense, managing to lock that site down for such a long period of time. Well done to them.
Yeah, I feel like when I look at that hold, I look at the setup and I say, okay, well, a big problem was Envy was still alive in main lobby. And looking just towards that breach. Yes, he took a little bit of damage from Scythes, but Scythes didn't have that heart breach. That meant Envy could just walk around, just slightly move to the right, and suddenly wasn't covered. Suddenly, that player was looking at that doorway. You have got some incredible choke points as a defensive side to use at that position. So, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're able to find the first kill onto the sledge, then you find the second, and then the smoke canister goes out. Sights has no option but to jump in, and, well, just didn't have time. Now Carnivora back up to Hookah Billiards. If they can win this, they'll be on 6-5, but, well, one thing you've got to consider, too, is that if they do win this, what side do they go to? They can't go down to that double bar again. In the Kitchen, they lost quite convincingly to Kjells. Penthouse, maybe, but with a mirror ban, it's going to be quite difficult to do so. I feel like this round is the one they need to win, but Kjells are still going to be able to take it. I would love to be proven wrong. Big changes that we're seeing from Carnivora. Arcade Claw is coming in to make sure that quad wall is fine. Make sure that everything's okay. You don't have to worry about anything. I want to see this roam game on the bottom floor have a bit more of an impact. maybe towards the office, just get a little bit aggressive. Make them know that you're there. Shoot some drones. Pull back. Run away. Just make sure that they know they need to waste the time. Then you can play towards Penthouse when they expect you to be over by that position. That's what I want to see coming out from Carnivora's roamers. Their anchors, though, they need to be on site. They need to be ready to deal with any push.
Yeah, Penthouse might be a nice one to bring out of the pocket just to mix things up a bit and see if that gives Carnivora the edge that they need going into what would potentially be their last round, or the round that makes or breaks this map for them to take them to overtime to turn into a best of 3. But we can't worry about that just now. We have to focus on what's going on right here. And as we get the first minute of this match, or this round, burnt out, we are still in a 5 versus 5 with the attackers going onto drones, trying to get all the information they can. We can see there that Ash being played by Svebo, very, very cautious of that hatch being opened up by, pretty sure the defensive team opened up, and we can see a player there in the rotate, looking down through that hole, trying to get a pick on Twinner that walks through. So Ash being very, very cautious of that. Frostmat is going to get spotted along with Smoke on the staircase. But a C4 is going to see Ruby taken out of play, and that could be the opener that the boys and girls of Carnivora need to close this round and get the win. But a quick refrag there coming out from Svebo as Guest goes down as well. He's not going to get killed just yet, but is he going to get revived? That's the question. We can't see exactly where he is, but there is a lot of activity going on. He's not going to get revived. Neither is Frost, as she is just down and out, and Bobby Boy gets that frag kill, leaving us in a 4 versus 1. Envy all on his own. Be surprised if we can see a Carnivora turnaround here, and sure enough, we're not going to get it as Envy does get taken out. And we have the scoreline of 7-4 at the end of that round. We're not going to have to worry about what site Carnivora would have gone to if they'd have won that one. It's something that we'll never know. But as it is, GG's, or GH at least, to the boys and girls of Disciples for taking that one. And we do get to see map number 3, Villa, which is where we have seen these two teams play before, and it was a 7-5 to Kjell's Disciples. So will we see history repeat, or will we see something a little bit different? That's the question.
I think if we're going to see a victory coming out from Kjell's Disciples, well, yeah, it's going to be a very comfortable one. It's going to be a very dominant one. They're going to rely on this aggression. They're going to rely on the fact that they just beat out on Coastline, and every single time it was Carnivora just really struggling to keep pace. We are going to be taking a short break just before we do get to it. We'll be bringing back Ebac after the break to really talk about that round, so let's not waste our energy now. We're just going to have a drink of water. You might want to do the same, so go for it, but don't go anywhere over the next couple of minutes. We'll be right back.
See you shortly.
What a second map that was of Coastline. We had a great clubhouse before that, but we stand here at 1-1. Everything to play for here on Villa. Don't want to say that I called it, but McCready called it as well. Toot, you were dead wrong. What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, I haven't got a clue what's going on. I don't belong here.
I'm just messing with you. Anyway, we had a fantastic map yet again. Is it what we expected, McCready, in that setup?
I think so, yes, definitely. I think we all went to Kjell's Disciples and said they're an aggressive team. That playstyle on Clubhouse definitely reflected it. And they kept it going on Coastline. It was their map pick as well. They were very comfortable on it. It's something you could see throughout their defense, throughout their attack. When things were going wrong, they were very comfortable in just bringing it back. So it wasn't that surprising to me that we saw them pick up Coastline. Going into Villa, though, it's going to be an interesting one. Like Toot said, like you've said before, last time we were here, Kjell's played it very well.
It came very, very close, that 7-5 in Playday 3. But Playday 3 was a while ago. You know, it's a good period of time for them to work on their strategies and see what we can do. Clubhouse was one of those where we were somewhat surprised by how dominant it was by some of Carnivora's play. It wasn't exactly what we expected. So maybe they've got something up their sleeves for Villa. And given the two very, very different maps, now we're on a kind of blend of the two, potentially, with Villa. What are we thinking, Toot, for especially Carnivora right now and their playstyle?
I think Villa often lends itself to very strong defensive setups. It can be very difficult to break through defensive setups depending on what you're doing. Nomad would be a great ban. She's very strong on this map. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that come out. But I think from what we've seen so far, I feel like Villa today could favour Carnivora. I'm starting to lean towards the way you guys have been. Just the way they played Clubhouse and the way they managed to switch between aggression and passiveness, depending on what side they were playing. I feel like that could go very well here for them today. On Clubhouse, the guys on Disciples didn't manage to adapt to it very well. They adapted a fair bit during Coastline, but it's a different style. Based on what I've seen here tonight, it's going to be a close one. It's not going to be a whitewash to either team, but I think Carnivora could edge it. I'm starting to sit with you guys.
And I didn't wish to curse it by saying we'd get to overtime all the way at the end of Villa, but we might well be headed there. It's very, very tough to call. McCready, I'm thinking about what we were talking about with the bans as well earlier on. We've had 2 Valkyrie bans on the previous 2 maps. She's an impactful operator here on Villa, can't she be?
There's no way Valkyrie doesn't get through the ban phase, simply put, honestly. The amount of impact and the weight that a Valkyrie camera has on Villa map itself, I feel like this is where we'd see it most importantly. That's where she's most important. I feel like you look at most of that floor on Villa, the top floor, there are like 1 or 2 places that you can't be C4'd. That's literally the closet, which I know you have a lot of PTSD from a certain person called Steno back, but that's fine. You know, a lot of places in this map, they have a lot of C4s. That's going to actually impact the rest of the way that I see this ban going. I feel like we should see a Thatcher Habana. And I'm going to explain I'm going to show my working. Don't worry about that.
Okay, go on.
You look at Ace and Habana. Now, those are typically the go-to heart breachers. They have a lot of range. They have a lot of utility. But for the defenders, rather than trying to force out those operators instead of a Thatcher or a Thermite, you want them to use these close-up operators. You want to make them get that Thermite because not only can you impact, but C4s come through, and a Valkyrie can have a lot of impact with that. I also, but as we do get into this game, want to say, well, Habana, that's the operator that I want to see banned out. I think she's the stronger hard breacher, purely the fact that while both Ace and Habana can get impact tricked, she can keep going. And a lot of Villa, I found, is attackers trying not to get inside that master bedroom because they know the C4s are going to be coming out. Say, if there is a Thermite charge, and you have a C4 somewhere in master bedroom, as soon as that Thermite charge starts going off, you're going to be pretty comfortable detonating it. It's why we see Ace banned quite a lot. I feel like it should be Habana, but a lot of teams, they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot entirely. Like Kjell's, if they ban an Ace, it's probably because they say, well, we don't want to ruin our attacking side, but we don't want to make it easy.
Before I go, just got to say, we got to see some clash here on Villa. She's absolutely fantastic if utilised correctly. I'm expecting it from these teams. All right, see you later.
See you, Reback.
Wow. Can't even argue with him. He's just gone as soon as he starts complaining. Right. Well, that's how you win arguments. Yeah, of course.
Just drop the mic.
Yeah, just drop the mic and run away. However, the Bands 2, what are you expecting on the defense? I've talked a lot about my predictions.
So Thatcher and Ace, no big surprise. Very influential attacking operators. Mira, very strong. Has become very ubiquitous for Aviator in games, so no big surprise to see Mira taken out of play. Other options for here, I would say, range from Maestro to possibly Clash. Not so much Kaid. I think Kaid's probably fine, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a Maestro ban or some similar intel. There you go. Maestro is. Maestro, very, very strong in terms of utility for this map. His Evil Eyes can be used to great effect to deny plants or give intel on site or slightly off site. He's got the Bailiff for using for rotations, which you'll find other operators to make up for that. The key thing, of course, is his Evil Eyes and the fact that he carries this Alder, which is just such a powerful weapon which will just rip people to shreds. Very capable of 1v3ing in a lot of situations, coupled with his utility itself, makes Maestro very, very strong on a map like this, where things are close quarters and intel can be king.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at a Maestro ban and you say, well, what's the other option for an operator that does the same job, just differently? That would be Echo, and we've talked about this a while. He's not invisible anymore. That means because of this yokai not being invisible, it's a lot easier to spot, a lot easier to deal with, and a lot of teams will want that Maestro instead, because Maestro is a stronger plant denial operator. Because the big thing for Echo was it was nimble, it was small, it was hard to spot because it was invisible.
Yep.
Maestro doesn't have that issue. Maestro now is very visible, but is bulletproof, and is very simple to spot. It takes a little longer to stop a plank going down, but I feel like with an Echo at this point, if you're able to use a yokai to the point where you're stopping a plank going down, you've deserved it. Valkyrie in the information game will be brought instead, and I feel like that's a good choice. Like I've said, take a look at this floor, and there are only a couple of places that you can really look at and say, you're not getting C4'd there. Having these Valkyrie cameras, especially on 90, is going to be absolutely criminal for just one player down below with a C4, whether it be Chingy or Sammy. Probably Sammy. Yikes.
Well, we get an attempt at a spawn peek there, but it gets shut down by Svebo, who isn't going to fall for it at all. And that's Wamai. We talked about this in a previous map where Wamai is an operator. You don't want to lose him too early. He just gets stronger over time. And his utility is so powerful. They're playing against operators that have got 4 frag grenades, a whole load of lifelines, a whole lot of breaching rounds. Wamai is so useful against this attacking lineup, and to lose him so early on when he can only have put down probably 2 discs at most, it's not what you want. It's not what you want. It's not what you want at all. Now, Jaeger is going to get caught by that Gemini. He's going to take it down, but it's not going to get capitalized on by Size, who's just sitting over here in Master Bedroom waiting. But instead, Svebo is going to get his second kill and take down Envy. But the C4 that you talked about earlier, there is no real safe floor when you're up above. That C4 does get the pick, and that was, of course, Valkyrie's C4. So using his own cams to great use there. That doesn't sound like a good sentence at all, using his cams to great use. Putting his cams to great use as he gets that pick from down below with the C4. But Svebo does get taken out, leaving us in a 4 versus 3. Still strong advantage here to the Disciples as they start to make their way over to the default primary site from pretty much the default take. Most teams will take from here and either go for a default plant behind the vault door or start to push their way around to open up that vault wall and start to push in that way. But given that we've only got Hibana in play, I wouldn't be surprised if we get the default take into Aviator behind that vault door. So let's see how this one's going to play out.
I'm going to be honest, I'm looking at the attacking lineup. Kjells, they have... It's something I talked about before. You're looking at this roster as a C4 will go off and find sites, but they're revivable. Shingy isn't going to commit any more time to that. You're going to get back to site. You don't have the players to waste. That's why you're going to use gas to try and get it with the gas. But Kjells are a very aggressive team. This is something we've seen on Coastline and something that's going to benefit them on attack here. They're going to be able to get an early advantage, and with Zemo, with the Yana, you're going to have a really hard time. A lot of information is going to go your way. You can just have somebody ready to refrag, and it looks like Zemo's going to take some damage. We're going to see Sights trying to get a kill. Maybe Bobby Boy able to find one on their own over towards that actual study side, but no. you're going to be able to open up that vault. You're going to give yourself a opening onto Scythe. Scythe, though, is going to be taken away. A 3 versus 3, and Kjell's starting to stall out a little bit. They will lose that Gemini Replicator, but they're applying pressure to Games. Guess is going to get a kill onto Ruby. He just wants to try and walk in. That's not going to happen. Bobby Boy is going to try and she will be taken away. Sammy gets another. Carnivora, they kept that endgame. They kept it well, but it could have gone oh so wrong. Just came down to landing some good shots with the SMG-11 and the MPX. Honestly, I feel like Kjell's, they stalled out a bit too much. Their attacking was strong. They had the player on that box window ready to get that opening kill onto Typical. But then as well, Envy in the roam clear, he started getting pushed out. You had a player in that window. Where was he going to go? He had to take a gunfight, and he wasn't ready for Svebo.
So Disciples suffered towards the end there as they went round for that vault wall, but although they chucked the grenade over the top, they didn't actually manage to take down the Electro Claw that was on the other side, which is why we then saw them just stacking up through that doorway into Games. They would have wanted to open up that vault wall rather than make that push into behind the vault doorway. The gas grenades were scaring them a little bit, I would say, so they decided, hey, we've got 30 seconds left, rather than push this smoke and all this utility that's being stacked up here, let's go around the other side, we get vault wall open, and then we've got our pick of the sites. However, they didn't manage to take down the Electro Claw, couldn't get that wall open, and by then they'd already committed to pushing around that side. They didn't have time to rotate back, so they had to funnel in through that doorway, but the players there in sight just stopped them from funneling and shut it down, and that's how Carnivora managed to get that round under their belt. And it's a very good first round for them to have here on defense. As I talked about earlier, attacking can be a tricky beast on this map. Teams know these sites so well now. Villa's been around for so long, so much is known about it, that there's very little that attackers can do that is going to surprise the defense. So it is a tough game, this one, attacking on Villa. Interesting Electro Claw. That's going to stop one. Let's see the second one go up. Oh, nice. Okay.
Have you not seen this
I've learned
before?
something new here today.
Essentially,
nice positioning.
What this does is, if a frag grenade goes over, one, it'll be caught by the AES. Two, it'll land at the floor, but those Electro Claws are not. You will have to go below to try and deal them out, and by that point, you've wasted a lot of utility. But the big thing I want to draw attention to is the roam game from Carnivora. I want to see them be very, very passive and fall off very quickly, because you're looking at a team that know how to attack, know how to roam clear. Bobby Boy, looking towards this study area, has line of sight towards landing, so the 90 hatch is the best option to drop as a defender. But you're going to have to deal with these attackers that will take up that window naturally, and will also try and take that bookshelf. Typical has to pull back and go through Wolf, but Envy doesn't have anywhere to go like that. You're stuck on the red stairs, and you're probably going to play your life. Maybe get a kill and pull back, or you're going to get pre-fired and die. Now, Kjells, their position, I feel like they have a lot of potential to really just start taking control. They haven't lost a single player. They've got a lot of map control, and these roamers have pulled back quickly. It's what I said they should do, but Kjells are still going to be able to take advantage of it. Zemo is able to join it to trophy and doesn't actually see anything. Gets taken down after a while, but it's going to be Ruby the first to fall. Sammy's able to get that kill and will start us off with frags. Kjells, no doubt, will want to be starting off aggressive. They're going to want to get that refrag, and Svebo's going to try and get it. Isn't going to be able to land those shots looking left to right, and is just going to start pushing forward. Time ticking down, a minute 10, and, well, Kjells, their push, it has to come through very soon. But Carnivora, they have 5 players left on the board. They have time in their favor. They have a lot of potential. Right now, Svebo and Zemo, this is going to be the duo that really open things up. Those Geminis, you need something to check them out. Or a drone. You can't go phase checking it like that. Guess is able to find a kill. Scythe is there for the refrag, but you're still in a losing game with numbers. So, Shingy and Envy, they're playing together. Typical looking for this angle. Peeks it a bit too much. Zemo finds a frag. Sammy has an answer. Scythe is pushing through. Has to try and find something. Envy's going to make sure it can't happen. It is all down to Zemo. And Zemo, 30 seconds and 3 defenders. No diffuser. What are you going to do? You're going to peek a little bit towards that shield. You're going to get a frag grenade over there, but the ADS will have recharged. It will be caught out, and you are going to have to pre-fire the hell out of that shield. Meanwhile, the rest of Carnivora, they're going to cover these angles. They're going to make sure Zemo takes damage and gets killed. Carnivora, a good round.
Yeah, good effort there from the defensive team, really holding back the attackers, forcing them to just move their way into a couple of very narrow doorways. We saw Ash really go for a play there onto that smoke behind the bomb, but didn't manage to come off better against the SMG-11. But Zofia was there waiting, ready to just move in, clean up, and get that refrag. But it just wasn't enough. The defenders had strong positions held where they wanted to be, and they just waited patiently for the rest of the players to move in. Now, have we lost? Oh, okay, I thought we'd lost Ruby there for a second, but we haven't. He's back. So, yeah, a great hold from Carnivora, and here we see them going 2-0 up. This is the strongest opening performance that we've seen them have so far in the first 2 rounds, I believe. I think they dropped the first round in both the first maps, so this is a good start for them. However, is it going to turn around for them? That's the question, because we have seen Carnivora switching things around a little bit in the first 2 maps, things going the other way to how they started. So the question is that going to be the case here, or are they going to be able to keep this momentum up and manage to take a win here? Now, defensive is the strongest side. Dining room and kitchen is going to be the tertiary site for pretty much any team on this map. And here is where we do expect to see the full vertical destruction. Now, the Disciples, they're going to know this is where Carnivora are going to be. They can't play either of the other 2 sites upstairs. They're going to have to go downstairs. No one ever goes to lounge and library, or very rarely at least, hardly ever. Now isn't the time to do it. They're going to go to dining and kitchen, so they are going to bring that sledge. They're going to bring Ash with the breaching rounds. They've got thermite to open up that laundry wall should they want to. They've got interesting to see that there's no flank denial here. We've got a single Claymore from Lion, which is likely to be used at the top of Astro Stairs, but I would normally expect to see a Nomad coming along for the ride on a take like this, because you've got plenty of doorways and staircases that you want to stop that flank from coming out on. And of course, we have Pulse in play here as well, who is going to be critical to the play in kitchen, because pretty much the whole floor above the site is destructible. And Pulse is going to be there useful to give the calls to the teammates where they've got 4 C4s available to them, 4 of them. Pulse giving the information would be critical. However, it seems that the guys on Carnivora have decided to bypass that completely and just flood in there from Mudroom, it looked like, and start to just make their way into kitchen. But with a flurry of kills, it's all of a sudden a 5 versus 1 or a 4 versus 1, and then with a quick trade at the end there between Typical and the last player on Carnivora. I didn't see who it was. That's it. That's round over. They decided to just forget that top floor take, attack from the side, and it was perfectly read into by Disciples, allowing them to win that round.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because you look at that site and you say, well, okay, there's the main way to take it. Obviously, this isn't going to work again next time we go to that site. It just won't. Trust me. I'll explain that in a second. Basically, what happened was Carnivora, they went for the typical hold. They said, right, top floor, we do our vertical play, they'll take control, and that's how we do with them. We get the pulse, we get the C4s, we get those kills. Okay, that's great. What happened was Kjell saw that, and they said, well, the easiest way to deal with this, the pulse is going to be looking up, not down. Let's go around. You have pantry presence, you also have that mudroom, like you said, going to China. I thought the Banshee and the camera was going to give it away, but no, they bypassed it. They went in guns blazing, were able to find a number of kills to start. The rest of Carnivora trying to scramble back to site. Wasn't going to happen. Returning to Aviator Games, I feel like this is where we're going to see Carnivora really start to show their stamina, and Kjell's really going to see if they can actually show this adaptation they're going to need. I mean, and honestly, when we go back to kitchen dining, because I'm certain we'll go there at some point, especially if Carnivora are on the defense, we're not going to see a rush like that. Kjell's, you caught them so off guard, Carnivora are going to be expecting it, and you know this, so you're going to go for a more typical take. Now, though, back to Aviator Games, and a couple of slight adaptations made for Carnivora, who realized, okay, what we need that reinforcement done. We need easier rotations out, so that landing reinforcement, we need it done. We need our roamers to feel a lot more comfortable. And that's something I like to see, but Zvebo has the potential of finding a very quick kill onto Shingi if he's fast enough, actually.
Doesn't look like it's going to happen, though. He's going to get away with it. Just about. So, well played to Shingi for living to fight another day. As we can see, the attackers starting to make their way in here from Master Bedroom. So as we attack to Aviator in games, this is the common backside push, as people call it, or the back push, where you're coming from behind the site rather than attacking it head on, which is what we saw the Disciples do in the last round onto Dining Room and Kitchen, pretty much just a head on take. We are going to get the standard windows being opened and peeked by the attackers, just watching for a little face to show themselves and trying to get one of those early picks out through the window, but it isn't going to happen as the attackers do start to flood into the building, and it looks like all of them are now in the building and starting to push their way towards the site. We have one lone player rappelling outside on balcony. It looked like that was going to be Zofia, who will be responsible for stopping any rotations. Very common, of course, for players to be playing on the main stairs outside the study, and will want to flank around through the study or the classical hallway, depending on what's happening. We do have one player holding that angle, waiting for a push through that doorway from balcony. But the drones are going to spot it, and they're going to know that they're there, and they will be a little bit more cautious with what they do with that doorway. We can see that it's Ruby's over there. He's going to be responsible for opening up the wall in between study and either aviator or games, depending on which way they want to do it. C4 does go off, but it doesn't find a target whatsoever. But Ruby does manage to claim a life, I presume, through a hole that he's already managed to make there. Yep, that was a player in Vault, it looked like, being taken down through a hole opened up thanks to Hibana playing on that rappel. Now Sides is going to take someone down with that powerful M762 as they start to push their way in from the other side of the building, as we saw earlier, with still just one player over on the other side of the building. But he is taking a lot of attention as Zofia wants to quick peek around this door. Now Sammy is looking the wrong way, but so is Zofia, as Zofia doesn't manage to claim a life, and Sammy does manage to get 2 instead. That's Diffuser down on the landing, leaving us in a 3 versus 2. We've got Ruby and Svebo coming from different sides of the map. They are separated, and this could go against them as they kind of really want to push together in this situation. Svebo does manage to take one down. As typical, is going to lose a load of health as well, but with no Diffuser in hand, Svebo is going to be responsible to come and get it, but Sammy is there waiting for that frag. That's the triple kill. Diffuser out in the wild, 15 seconds to go. Ruby is going to have to play for kills here, but I cannot see him winning this with this Diffuser being held so closely. Now Hibana does have an idea someone's going to be on the stairs. Is he looking in the right position? Yes, he is. He does manage to get that pick and pick up the Diffuser. No, he doesn't pick up the Diffuser. He's going to go for that kill. He moves into sight, but he doesn't know exactly where that player is. It is going to be Wamai sitting behind the bar, and he does manage to get away with it and buy enough time for the defenders to win the round.
Carnivora definitely feeling very annoyed about that. You're going to be looking at that and saying that's a momentum boost for them. I mean, Kjells, you look at that and you say, why are you doing that? Why are you not picking up the Diffuser? You found the kill. It was so free to pick it up. You could have gone for a plant, but you went for the frag. Honestly, I mean, that was so winnable for Ruby if you start go for a plant. But that's not what happened. You went, you got the kill, and then you walked back. I don't like that. That wasn't it. I feel like there might be a few more cracks in Kjell's armor than is really showing at the moment. Carnivora, however, good effort to bring it back to a 3 versus 3. Good effort to slow them down. 3 rounds on the board. Can you make it 4? Then the question is, can you make it 5? I feel like we could go for this. I feel like we could see a 5-1, and then maybe even look at, okay, well, what can Kjells do to bring it back? I feel like tighter play, that's really going to help. I feel like actually being able to capitalize upon a lot of these openings they're making, they have the same kind of issue as Carnivora did on Coastline. Of they got a couple of kills, they had everything ready for an execute, they were ready to start pushing in, but they weren't really sure of what to do with it. I mean, they had 90 control, they had a couple of kills, but then they were kind of thinking, well, how do we close the round out? And that's a lot of teams do have that problem, unfortunately.
Yeah, when you commit so many bodies to one side and leave one on their own on the other side, it is a risky strategy because you do leave yourself open to having that 1-1 split. It's almost like a 7-10 split in bowling, where it's like one of the hardest splits to make successful. It's not impossible, but leaving 2 players so separated like that with such a small amount of time left, it's not ideal. A bit more teamwork and cohesion would have been nice to see there on the part of the Disciples. It was a nice idea in principle, but just leaving that one player on his own, it just went against them in the end there. But hopefully they will turn that around for this one, and we'll start to see the Disciples putting a couple more on the board, and we get a bit more of a close game with this one. Now I noticed that we are bringing the IQ. I think it's the first time we've seen IQ on this map coming out, and it's an interesting choice for this site. I would assume that they're going to look to go downstairs possibly and pick as much utility off as possible before making their way into site. Can see IQ is actually up there on the top floor at the moment, so they're not quite doing that, but maybe there'll be a bit of a drop in a moment as she drops downstairs to try to pick out some utility under site and give that information to her teammates so that so they know exactly what they're looking out for when it comes to ADSs and signal jammers and black eyes that IQ just can't get to herself attacking from the front. But as we have the first half of the round ticked away, we are still in a 5 versus 5. Diffuser is in the hands of Bobby Boy as the Disciples start to converge their way onto the site here, all coming over pretty much from the Aviator and Gaming side. Let's see what kind of take they're going to bring out here.
Yes, you're looking at Carnivora. Their actual defense was a very, very strong point. They were able to hold and lock down these angles by not peeking and waiting. But, yes, is going to be holding the angle, and the Scythe is going to take that. He's going to bite. He's going to try and find that frag. Isn't going to get it. Bobby Boy will find a kill and open things up. Shinky taken off the board means, well, maybe you can add on to it. Guess is going to fall as well, but Typical has a refrag. And suddenly, a minute left on the clock, Kjell's in a very good position to start pushing. 3 defenders, they're all looking to stop this all go down. Zemo pushes in. Frag grenade comes out from Bobby Boy, who starts the plant. It's gonna put a lot of pressure on. The swing comes out from Typical, can't make it happen. Sammy gets a frag, but Ruby's there with an answer. It's all down to Envy. You could have stopped the plant going down, but you can't even get a kill. Kjell's Disciples will be able to pick up a second attacking round, and a 4-2 split is looking like it's going to be on the cards. Very nicely done from Kjell's. They brought it down. They said, right, this is where we struggle. We stall out, but on this site, an aggressive push, stalling out, waiting, and getting everything prepared isn't actually that bad. Because on this site, you burst out, they can't really deal with you. They only have 1 or 2 players looking towards you, and they can't rotate thanks to that Astro window. Very, very well played from Kjell's, but you can't rely on something like that every single round. You're going back to Trophy Statue. Maybe you can rely on it this round, maybe. Carnivora, they're looking at this, they're going to need to have a little bit more roam presence in the late round, I think. Because you saw that player who was playing split, trying to get around. Maybe if you look at Typical, if you drop down, try to roam a little bit later, you could have had more of an impact, catching them behind up main stairs. They didn't have a Nomad. They do have a Nomad now, actually. You can maybe get away with shooting out those air jabs. I feel like there's a lot of potential, but Carnivora, you gotta realize what's going wrong in this defensive setup.
Yeah, there was a great dominating take from the Disciples there on that last round, just pushing their way in, just brute forcing their way in and getting that plant down. Great plays from Bobby Boy on the sledge as well to just apply that pressure to the defender, trying to make his way back into sight to deny the plant. Just throw those grenades, you either get a kill or you push the guy back and allow yourself more time to plant. So it was very effective, a very strong strategy. It held the guy back long enough to get that plant down, and then eventually when he could push through without fear of just being blown to smithereens, there was a player there waiting with a gun to shoot him down. So yeah, a very good take from the Disciples there, putting a much needed round in the win column for them, taking it to 2-3, and they're going to be looking to close this half as a 3-3. They do not want a 4-2, they're going to want a 3-3, whereas Carnivora obviously want the 4-2. Let's see if they're going to be able to pull that one off as we do go back to trophy and statue, as we say. Now, this is a very standard setup that we're seeing with the reinforcements and the rotates, but it does look like the defenders are playing it very, very carefully. We've got one roamer, that's going to be Malusi down there roaming around in piano, and with a C4 in hand. 4 C4s in fact on the side of the defense. One has already been spent. I assume it's pre-placed because I haven't heard one go off just yet. But
no, it's not.
This roam from Typical could be very, very strong if it doesn't get shut down by the attackers. And it looks like they aren't actually applying any kind of pressure or intel game or intel gathering game down here on the first floor. They're just upstairs. We can see Sledge just merrily swinging his hammer around. Yellow pings going out all over the place. One player repelled on the balcony. They're not paying any attention to this bottom floor at all. So Typical could be the ace that Carnivora are going to need to take this to a 4-2.
Yeah, you're looking at Kjell's, and, well, they've been a very two-dimensional with these attacks. They haven't worried about flanks so much. I feel like Typical, the longer you stay alive, the more important you'll be. Fabo gonna push in, though, finds a kill. Looks to make sure that there can't really be an impact. Finds a second. Envy's off the board. The refrag is there naturally. but Bobby Boy's only going to capitalize and find another frag. Kjells, they want a 3-3 split and then go into their defense, and my god, they're going to work hard to get it. Ruby will be able to find this Banshee, but the information is given. Typical is going to get taken away on the roam by Zemo, and suddenly, it's all down to guess, and the plant is going to start going down. You're looking at a 1 versus 4 situation. You're going to have to pop off. You know there's some players nearby. You know there's a flashbang coming off. You can't jump out that window. What are you trying to do? The flashbangs come through, and the push is yet to follow. A lot of utility just keeping you held in place. And guess is going to get taken away by a swing. Kjells, they seize the initiative and they give themselves a 3-3 split, putting themselves onto the defense very, very comfortably. They're going to be looking at this defensive side and say, well, let's play aggressive. Not too aggressive. Let's find what we should have been doing on Clubhouse. Let's apply that to this map. Let's make sure that when we peek things, we know we either have a refrag or it's a clutch scenario, essentially. We need to make sure that we're not giving away free kills in the very start. Our roam game needs to be tight and measured and controlled. And think about it. If you strike now and you lose it, is it more of an impact than if you don't? Or if you're going for a swing, maybe you're able to find 1 or 2 kills, like a swing onto 90. Is that possible? Is that actually going to benefit your team? You've got to have a lot of thought process coming in from Kjells. They really struggled on their defensive side on Clubhouse, but their coastline was really good. I want to see if they can make the changes and find that balance that they have, because they're going to need it. Otherwise, Carnivora will take control.
Yeah, I talked about this at the end of map number 1 with Carnivora really making the Disciples play their game rather than them playing the Disciples game. Now, the last couple of rounds we've seen the Disciples playing their game. They haven't folded to Carnivora whatsoever. They've seen the setup, they've made judgment calls, they've acted on them, and it's paid off very well for them. Like I said just now in that previous round, we saw Ash just making the choice to move in and make that play. It could have been successful, it could have been unsuccessful. Fortunately, it panned out, got 2 picks, lost her life, but it didn't matter because the damage had already been done and the bleeding had already started on the side of Carnivora, allowing them to win that round. So what Carnivora need to do here is swing this game back into being about what they want to do. However, when you're on the attack, it is very, very difficult to do that. It's very much easier to control the flow of the game when you're on defense, because the attackers have to take the time to work out what you're doing, how they're going to get past it, how to circumvent all the little things that you set up, how to pinch onto players. So you're typically in much more control as the defenders than you are as the attackers. So it's going to be a challenge for Carnivora to really make the Disciples play they want to play at this point. Disciples are going to be in control, and Carnivora just need to work out how they are going to get around that control that the Disciples are going to have. Now, we are seeing Goyo being brought into play, which I think is the first time we've seen Goyo on this map. I haven't noticed it being played just yet. And that's going to be very important utility that's going to be set up likely on the bar doorway. It's going to be useful for slowing down pushes quite a lot, as Envy there from that window, a beautiful kill from all the way through that hole onto the hallway. Nicely done there by Envy. We saw a C4 go off just in front of him trying to get a pick, but they didn't realize he hadn't come in yet. Just as all of the players now get together out here in Statuary and start to make their way towards the bomb site in the hope of getting that plant down and starting to put some more rounds on the board. Because at the moment they're going to be slightly uncomfortable. I suspect that they are level pegging. They're going to want to be in the lead at this point, but they are where they are. Now they just need to work out what they're going to do to make sure they continue with the momentum that they picked up.
The halfway mark passed across this round, and, well, it looks like a really good measured execute coming out from Carnivora. Sammy unable to find that shot onto Bobby Boy. However, they know that you're there. They know that they need to be prepared. Currently on the rotate means there'll be a little bit of pressure applied. That swing isn't going to take place, and you can put some pressure on. This is where you'd want to see a Nomad really have a very strong impact, as guess able to find Bobby Boy means 90 is going to open up. You need to make sure that there isn't going to be Svebo getting that flank, but that's exactly what's going to happen. Finds the Nomad, takes control of Red Stairs. 3 versus 3 and 45 seconds left on the clock when you look at the score. But 3 versus 4 on the map, and right now, Kjell, they have a lot of map control that they can cover. They can't worry about 90, so that's why you're seeing Ruby focus on bookshelf. Svebo just going to walk up, will trigger the air jab up because there is a little bit of a bug. that's not going to have an impact. You get it behind the attackers, and suddenly they're in a much, much worse position. Envy knows you can't push. That Banshee gets triggered. Someone's going to swing. It's going to be Ruby, a 3 versus 3. Svebo finding another kill, and now the 2 attacking players in 90 are going to fall like flies. Sammy Zemo's able to find one. Shingy gets the refrag, but, well, Svebo and Ruby, they just have to wait. Shingy, very low HP, has to push through, and Svebo, just the one bullet, is able to close things down. Kjells start their defensive side with a win when we move into Trophy Statue, and I think they, with this attacking round that they've had, and their defensive round so far, they might be in a very good position to close things out. They just need to be able to keep this consistent. Their roam game, their flank game has been impeccable, aside from a few little hitches. They can be ironed out, though. We are going to be having a little bit of a pause so we can get an audio bug sorted out, but honestly, I feel like Kjells, they're in a very strong position so far.
Yeah, it's a disappointing take there from the attackers from Carnivora. We had the Zofia trying to push her way in with a player tucked right up by that doorway there at the top of the staircase, and the Banshee caught her out. The unfortunate thing there was that she didn't have the utility left to deal with it. She'd already spent all of her lifelines from that balcony, when I would rather have seen that utility get used there on that Banshee. You've got to use it for the team. You've got to use utility for the team. But at the same time, when you're an entry fragger or a pusher such as Zofia, and you've got utility like that in front of you, when you know that there's often going to be a defender playing around the top of that staircase somewhere, that's why that Banshee's there, is to allow that player to be able to get the picks. It would have been nicer to have seen the Zofia use that utility to make sure that she'd at least made it so that she could enter safely and start to back up her team. But unfortunately, that hadn't happened. She pushed in, she was slowed down a little bit, and Jaeger just managed to get that pick. So, yeah, not as strong an attack there as we probably could or should have seen from Carnivora. But with all of that being said, of course, it was a great hold set up by the Disciples.
I feel like the Disciples, they had a really good kind of setup with it. Obviously, they lost that Roma. They lost that early player of that Mozzie and had to really adjust their playstyle because of it. But Svebo on the flank, honestly, I cannot give you enough credit. You're able to get on red stairs. You take away typical. You took away the Nomads. You took away a lot of the freedom that Carnivora have in just knowing that these staircases, they are covered with an audio cue at the very least of a gunshot shooting it out. Well, now that's not the case. That's not the case. That's not going to happen. With this Nomad being taken away, you suddenly have to worry about the flanks. You're going into gunfights with one eye looking behind you because you need to do that. You can't let them have that control. But immediately with that kill onto typical, they've done it. Kjells, they put themselves in a really strong position. I want to see them do it again. And on the flip side to what we saw from Carnivora, I want to see Kjells really dig down on this roam game. I really want to see them towards that 90 and study area. They need to just dig in. Because if they find a couple of early kills from there, Carnivora, based on what I've seen, I feel like they're going to collapse. They're going to struggle. Whereas Carnivora, they needed a more fluid roam game. And that's what they tried to provide. Kjell's Disciples, I feel like they are really going to benefit from digging in, finding a couple of these kills, and just not really letting Carnivora get any steps ahead of them. We are going to be starting up this game. The 6-pick will be coming through for the Cade, for those Electro Claws, but you look at the Kali, you look at the Habana, the triple wall, if they really wanted to get opened up, will be open. I mean, this is what I talked about. The Ace has been banned, and assuming there was a third attacker ban, I feel like Habana would have gone as well, but Habana can't get impact trade, which is why you're seeing Kjell's opting for quite a few more C4s, because, well, there's no point trying to impact trigger against the Habana. She's going to get the wall open with that recent addition, with that recent change to her setup. So, looking at this, I feel like the roam game, it's going to be key. It's going to be incredible as long as they have Svebo firing on all cylinders and somebody to support maybe Cyphers in that 90 area.
Yeah, as we switch the sides over here to Trophy and Statuary, the defensive setup is going to be very similar, I think, to what we saw in the previous round, with Banshees being used to slow those players down as they try to make their way towards the site there. The Goya shields are going to be used to great effect to slow down pushes. And it's going to be difficult for the attackers to make their way around this. We've got some nice Valkyrie cams getting thrown out there to give all of that intel. Don't have a default rotate opened up yet, but that is being pinged, it looks like, for someone to open. We haven't got... Okay, we are now getting the holes in the wall to allow the C4s to try and stop Hibana from opening those up. So things are starting to take shape now for the Disciples as they get ready for this push in from Carnivora. There are some very standard Valkyrie cameras in place there that will no doubt get caught easily. We see Sammy get down, but the teammate tries to go to protect her, but she gets taken down as well. So that is 2 players very quickly taken off the board. Never mind, 3 taken off as well from Envy there. And all of a sudden, we're in a 2 versus 2. In the blink of an eye, just bodies have dropped, and there's no diffuser in hand of the attackers. It's at the top of the main staircase there. We've got 1 attacker repelled outside the balcony, 1 pushing in onto the top of the staircase. They're going to pick up that diffuser, and now they need to work out how they're going to make their way into sight. I'd expect to see both Svebo and Bobby Boy holding up very close to sight. We can see Svebo downstairs, but he is making his way up to join his teammate so that they can hold off these last 2 players. Now, we do have Envy with all of his utility left, and that's going to be very impactful because he's going to be able to take down those shields. He's going to be able to deny some of that cover for the defenders. He's going to be able to take out some utility from a distance. Hibana, not quite as useful for this take. Her utility isn't going to be used at all, except for maybe some stun grenades to take down an ADS here and there. But other than that, this setup right now, I think, is probably favoring the defensive side.
Yes, it is. A C4 will go off, and it will not find the kill. Envy is going to use that utility, like you said, will burn a Goyo shield and give yourself a little bit more entrance onto site. A little easier time taking these gunfights, but, well, it's going to be quite difficult. Envy, you've already found 2 kills in this round. Can you find more? You are going to have to really step up in a massive way in a push into trophy. The statue is going to be leading it in 50 seconds left. Reload that magazine, boy. You are going to need it. Shingy brings that drone around and you say, right, well, it's go time. I know exactly where this player is. I'm going to push through. I'm going to find that 4th kill. I just need 1 more. Give me an ace. Go on. He gets it. Carnivora able to clutch it up and will take trophy statue. Now, the big question is, as they even up, how are Kjell's Disciples going to react? How are they going to deal with this? Are they going to take the same site? Are they going to go down below? More importantly, how are they going to shut down Envy with one person who's just ace to keep them level?
Look for a moment there as well, like his teammate was sitting on drones going, you've got the 4K, go for that ace, I'll drone you, you just get that ace. And he did manage to get it in tremendous style, so well played to Envy there for a great round. Now, you can't obviously rely on players doing that every single round. You need every single player to do their bit. But to be fair, we've seen Carnivora doing their bit through other rounds, so although they won't be relying on Envy to do that every time, I think that's perfectly reasonable because they've done their fair share throughout these rounds so far, so I don't think that that's in any way a particularly surprising round for Carnivore or anything that shakes the tree too much. It's just something that happened. They're going to move on. They need to keep their focus. I'm sure Envy will be getting a lot of love in their game speak right now, but their focus has to be on this next round and for every round that comes up ahead rather than focusing too much on what just happened there and how they managed to get to a point where just 1 man entered and shot everyone that he saw. So yeah, great round there from Carnivora. Obviously, bulk of that congratulations goes to Envy. Not the strongest round coming out from defense to allow that to happen. 3 quick kills in such quick succession just wasn't the plan. It looked like they had some roamers off site that just got caught out in gunfights. They couldn't back away. They just faced into it and just came off worse. So let's see if they adapt that at all for this second attempt to defend this site, as we get a pretty standard setup here with all of the rotates and reinforcements and utility. Interesting frost map placement in the corner there under the ADS. Now that's the kind of thing that I guess you walk into the ADS and not actually paying much attention to it. So if that doesn't get spotted, that could be an MVP frost mat right there. So let's keep an eye on that one and see how that's going to pay off. Ooh, nice little peek there from the study doorway. Manages to do a load of damage to Typical. He opens fire, does a bit back, not as much as he took, but still that's going to help. But yeah, that's not where you want to be this early on into the round as you're just trying to make your way into the building.
No, not at all. I feel like Kjell's Disciples, as we do see the entrance coming out from Carnivora, they need to be very comfortable. Because Carnivora, they lost a lot of players early on. Svebo's going to make sure that they lose Sammy as well. Envy did a lot of legwork there. That round was a loss for Carnivora, on a statistical sense, they lost a lot of players. It came down to a clutch. You can't rely on that. You need to make some changes. You need to be hitting your shots. You need to be refragging. Carnivora, you're only just keeping toe, and that's because of an ace coming out from one of your entry fraggers. That can't happen every single round, even though time is ticking down. You're on your way. You're going to try and do some stuff. There's some roam clear taking place, and you're getting some shots out, but nobody's actually there. Nobody's putting that pressure, that wasted utility. You're clearing 90. You're getting moving on. You're getting ready for a push. Half the round is taken off the clock so far, and Kjells, they pull back sight. They play it safe. They don't need to get aggressive now. They have an advantage, and we talked about these choke points. Like you said, these thrust mats, they're going to be positions where you are not looking for it, but you walk into them. Shingy will just be breaking that barbed wire, getting ready, just in case you want to push statue. But just in case you want to go to trophy, you're not going to overcommit at the moment. Time starting to work against the attackers here. Typical has quite low HP to try and work with this, so he's going to say, right, I'm going to rotate around. I'm going to put pressure on Master Bedroom because that's something I can do, something that isn't going to ruin a round if I die at this point. You have that pressure. Svemo's going to be able to find another kill, though. Typical gets that refrag, takes away Zemo, but there's still a lot of work to do. 40 seconds left and 4 defenders left. 4 attackers ready to do it. Envy will go in, find a kill onto Zemo. Scythe is going to fall as well. Ruby's going to get a kill onto Shingy, and a push is coming through for Carnivora. A 2 versus 2, and Envy is still alive and ready to go, but it's going to be Bobby Boy finding that frag. Kjell's 1 kill away from a 5-4 scoreline, ready to push through onto match point, but they need 1 more kill to make it happen. Typical will push through this Banshee, will give away the name of the game. Ruby doesn't have a C4, but you have HP, you have an AUG, you most importantly have a smoke here to do the damage. Ruby will be able to find a kill, and Kjell's 1 round away from match point, ready to shut things down. Tight play, early advantages that meant you had a lot more of a buffer zone when it came to that execute, and it came to Envy trying to bring something back for Carnivora. Honestly, dude, if Envy dies, Carnivora are going to start floundering. They're going to start losing rounds.
Yeah, and I was talking about they've all done their fair share in this game, but Envy over the last 2 rounds has certainly, pulled some rabbits out of some hats and has made some magic happen. And yeah, after he died there, it looked like things just fell apart a little bit for them. We had Typical, very low on health, trying to take gunfights through doors that, in my opinion, he shouldn't have been trying to take. I mean, he pushed in front of Envy, I think it was, or Shingy, on a doorway, trying to get a pick, and it's kind of like, my guy, you're on 20 HP, and the guy you're pushing in front of has full HP. Just fall back, try something else, and rotate round. He did it. He managed to get a kill out of it. And he managed to actually get to the point where he was the last player standing, but he left himself in a position where he just couldn't push his way in. He didn't have the HP to just force his way in, pick up the diffuser, or even try to play for enough kills. And it went against Carnivora on that one, allowing Disciples to take the win. So Disciples looking nice and strong right now. If they can keep shutting down these attacks the way they have done for the last round or 2, then they could well go to take on the win here. But it's not Carnivora out just yet. It's been such a back and forth game. At this moment, it could still be anyone's. And yeah, I'm very intrigued to find out whose it's actually going to be. Now, we see a player just rushing downstairs there below the site. And I'm interested to know what that player downstairs is going to be doing. We do have 3 C4s in play. Both of these teams really like their C4s. They really like their C4s. And I love a C4 myself. See, we've got the pings going out there with a pre-placed C4 from sides. I'm guessing, where's that? That's just on the window into Master Bedroom, if I'm right. Closet. So just as they come into closet, then hopefully they'll be able to get a pick there. But they need a lot of intel to pull that one off in this one, I think. So it'd be good to see if that one pays off, but I'm just not sure that they'll have the coordination to make it work. But we'll see. We'll see.
We're seeing Ruby getting pressured on main stairs. He's droned out. They know he's there. Svebo's doing a really important job. He's covering you, making sure. Well, yeah, you can push Ruby. He is a free kill if you can get on those main stairs, but Svebo's going to make sure you can't do that. Holding that angle, the SMG-11, it shoots like an absolute just spitting bullets, essentially. That's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to spit bullets onto the attackers, but, well, that vertical play is going to start coming through. It's going to put pressure on Svebo, and suddenly Ruby does have to worry about those stats. Suddenly, you're not looking in the right position. Envy will fall, however. The main fragger for Carnivora, this is his map, but this isn't his round anymore. He's going to get knocked out, and Ruby pulls back. Vertical play, still there. Habana Pellets will open up this study wall a little bit, but there's nothing Carnivore can really do without exposing themselves in a horrible way to the defenders. Joining over towards Bookshelf, they realize, alright, the main stairs, they're clear, we can move up. They're not watching this vertical because they can't. They've reinforced. We're going to need to take 90. If we're going to take that short, then we have to go around and take long as well. There is a lot on the cards for Carnivora to really get done, but Typical is going to lead that charge. Going to have to worry about quite a few things. A swing from 90, a swing from the door, that utility. There's so much that you have got to deal with, and right now it's going to be that 90 swing. Utility will go through, and the peak is looking like it's about to come through. Typical looks for the kill, but the double peak of Bobby Boy will find another frag for the defenders.
Yeah, great coordination there from the two defenders, one playing on 90 and one playing in the doorway. Both of them starting to look around that doorway exactly the same time. They knew something was coming. Stun grenade had gone out, so the pull went out, I suspect, from Ruby's playing there by that window, or sorry, by the smoke, to the player on 90 to push at the same time with him, and they made it pay off exceptionally well. And with that, as I'm waffling, we see another round on the board going to the Disciples, which puts them onto match point, I believe, 6-4. So we've got the GGs in the chat already, and not realizing that the game's actually still going. So that's the mindset that we've got on Carnivora right now, where maybe they've already just written this game off, and that could go against them if they don't have the right mindset. If you're going into it at this point thinking, yeah, it's over already, GGs, well, that's not going to reflect well in the rest of the game.
Actually, it was somebody on Kjell's who actually said that. So I think their mentality is a bit higher, definitely. Based on that last round, right. It's flawless. And the coordination that Kjell's have had on their defense has been really, really strong. But, well, you look at this site, Hoot, and you look at the operators. What did we see last time we were here that we're probably not going to see again?
We saw the rush coming in from the Astro side, or Mud. No, not Mud Room. It's Bike Room, isn't it? The one on the one just opposite. So yeah, we saw the rush coming in from there. Will we see it this time? I think Mud Room is the one next to Memorial, and Bike is that one over by Lounge. I always get them mixed up, but I'm pretty sure.
Just say Clock.
So yeah, we saw the push.
Clock normally works.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Clock normally works as a call out. Yeah, but I feel like
I haven't heard that one.
I feel like we're not going to see this. Because we're not going to see a rush from Carnivora. That's not their playstyle. And they know that there are a lot of things that could go wrong. They're not going to be comfortable with that. Kjells, however, if a rush does come through, their roamers are going to waste no time. They're going to collapse. They're going to catch them in the back. Carnivora need to take a strategic and measured approach to this, because otherwise they're just going to get picked apart by the roamers like they have in the last couple of rounds.
But at the same time, this could be the time where you do just pull out that surprise play and catch the defense off guard. I don't know. I mean, it looks like they're not going for that anyway. We are getting repels up to Astro and all of that kind of thing. So it looks like we are going to get the archetypal attack from above. We can see Thermite over there as well on the balcony of Master Bedroom. So yeah, top floor take it is, as they will start to do some damage up above now. They have lost one player already. They don't have a sledge in place, so the vertical destruction is going to be limited to what Zofia and Ash can do. I wouldn't... Oh, going to get Mozzie spotted out there. Is he going to get killed? That's the big... No, he's going to do the killing instead. How do you die to a player that's been spotted? He does get refragged, so nicely done, but it is a 4 versus 3, and that's not looking good right now for the guys on Carnivora. Considering the operators that are left, vertical destruction is pretty much going to have to go by the wayside, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a takedown Astro stairs and maybe into kitchen. Alternatively, just a drop into laundry, open up that laundry wall and try and plant somewhere near this bomb in that little cubby hole that we literally just saw right in front of us. But we do have every defender that's left downstairs on site. There's no one upstairs. So they have just turtled up. They're just waiting for this push to come. They know they've got the man advantage. They've got the intel from Pulse. They just need to wait and be patient. And that should be enough to win the day.
should. Right now, you're looking at this, and that default camera is gone. However, there are Valkyrie cameras. There are pulse information. And Sveba's trying to get his C4 back.
Get C4 back.
It's on the metal bar. It's not going to happen. Right now, Carnivora, I want to say Shingy should be on a sledge. Should not be on a Maverick because, well, you know the site is going to be. You know it's going to be a bottom floor site. Now, Envy will be able to find a kill to even things up. And with a minute left, keep Carnivora in the game. But right now, you're in a very difficult position. You've got to try and push. You've got to try and get a couple of kills on the board. You've got to get map control. And right now, Kjells, they know you can't just drop onto site. There are no hatches that you can go through. You've just got to push. Envy's going to look to do exactly that. The frag grenades will lead through. This is it. Svebo's going to be able to find one kill. Finds Envy. Looks for another one. But is caught mid-reload. Gets guess anyway. Really doesn't care. And that's going to be it. Svebo sends Kjell's disciples all the way to the next stage of the playoffs, knocking out Carnivora.
Yeah, GG indeed to the Disciples there, and to Carnivora. They put up a very strong fight. Not quite as good on Villa as they had in the league stages. It was 7-5 in league stages, if I recall, but 7-4 today. So clearly Disciples have just got stronger as they get to this one. One of the questions in my mind was going to be, you know, this is the first time we've seen these teams in a best of 3 in this season. How much experience do they have? What's the, you know, what do they have in terms of stamina to be able to go to all 3 maps and win it? But it looked like Disciples were the one that had that. So yeah, GG to them.
Hey, gents.
Hello.
How fun was that? That was
Hello.
quite a romp. Came very, very close to my overtime prediction, but just a few rounds too shy, unfortunately. Svebo said, no, I am winning this game. Even when he had pretty much no right to in that final position, winning out that fight with the pistol. There we go. What a fantastic result. And it means they move through to the next stage. McCready, talk us through that bracket and what this might mean for their chances, Kjell's Disciples.
Well, first of all, the big thing that's really stepping up to my mind is you said what a romp, and I'm trying to work out who's older, you or my dad. But, well, it doesn't really matter. Let's take a look at the bracket really quick. We're going to look at Kjell's Disciples. They're going to move on to Game F at the bottom left of your screen. Proximity?
Such a hard one to
Proximity.
say.
They're going to be heading to Game F. They're going to be going and facing up against Kjell's Disciples in Game F. Actually, I'm not actually sure if that's updated. Machine Soldiers Academy and Proximity.
Let me check.
The winner of that match in the bracket will go to Game F. They will face Kjell's Disciples in the next game. In Carnivora, one of the 2 teams coming from the open bracket will be knocked out, leaving Kjell's Disciples as the only representatives of those brackets. Now, these aren't the up-to-date scorelines, so
up
we're
to
just
date,
going to talk
actually,
about
we're
it, yeah?
still currently right now kind of in the background. Machine Soldiers are playing Proximity. It's currently 1-1. We're on map 3, so we're still yet to see who they will face in the next round. Kjell's Disciples.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look at this and you can work it out very easily. You're looking at the other games that are going to be played. Lions Creed and Revenge. That's going to be a very interesting one. Lions Creed winning out the last season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Team Humble Academy and Team Unknown. They're also going to be playing each other in Game B, looking to move to Game E, and well, it's going to be very exciting. You see that dotted line, that's when you really get to the good stuff. The major teams, they're going to be starting to walk in now, and you're looking at Manic, Arctic, Cyberground, Jaegers, big names that a lot of teams are going to be wanting to take away. But Kjell's Disciples, I'm going to say it, Ebak, I think they've got a good run. I'm going to say semi-final 2, they'll make it, at least.
Ooh. That's quite a shout. I mean, you're
It
not
is.
alone. I will let slip a tiny tidbit of information. I
Ooh.
made everybody, all the staff at the beginning of the season, predict who they think might win the entirety of the playoffs. There was a vote for Kjell's Disciples. So you're not completely alone in thinking they might at least do a very good run. But it's going to be a tough way through.
I'm gonna have to really feel bad about this because I predicted that it was going to be...
You can't say... You
What?
can't say. I'm going to reveal it later on.
Oh, right, okay, no, never
Don't
mind.
tell
No.
everyone.
I predicted somebody else, but anyway, we're
You
moving
did.
on. Kjell's Disciples, I feel like they've got a real shot. They just really need to step up. But, well, Ebak, that's our game for now, and I think 2 is also being called away to some very urgent matters.
Yeah, it seems like we've got stuff
Yes.
to do. Those games on in the background are going to be very
Hello.
important as well. We'll update you. Hello, is that Mrs. Toot?
It's Mrs. Toot. It is Mrs. Toot, yes.
How was your wedding anniversary? Was it wedding anniversary the other day?
It is, well, it is our wedding anniversary today, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
today!
Oh.
Filled with
Congratulations!
work and casting, yes. Thank you.
Splendid, I respect that. Being here with the lovely folks at ECS.
That's very respectable. And on that fantastic note, I'm going to leave it there. It's been a great match. Thank you, McCready and Toot, for coming along today. And also Grissom and Shira, all the hard work behind the scenes. On top of that, we'll see you not tomorrow because we've had that rescheduled, the game in the background today. We'll see you the day after for Lion's Creed versus Revenge. And you don't want to miss that one. See you then.
Good night all.